Da, da, da. All right. Hello. So I mentioned this in the comments and description, probably wherever I linked it. It's snowing real bad. Uh, Everything's iced over, but I have some bourbon and I have a script. So we're going to read it. If somebody in the chat here could let me know if the audio is actually balanced right. Somebody the last time I did this told me it was balanced well, and the music was extremely loud. So that was not ideal. We're just going through a chill little setup period here while we get everything together. Do, do, do. So, I do recommend a beverage. I have not pre-read the entirety of this script, but there are some dire portents in what I have read. So, I hope we're all ready for a wonderful evening. And nobody has yet commented in the chat to let me know whether or not the music is balanced well. So that's always delightful. I'll just assume that I nailed it. Oh wow, I'm dropping frames. What is going on with these frames? Let's see. Hey, what if I don't outstream this at 60? Because there is absolutely no reason to. All right, I guess. Okay, that's pretty. It's pretty good. I'd rather have the music be quiet since obviously it's also copyrighted. I suppose if the audio's uninterrupted, I don't really care if it drops frames. I'm mostly going to have still images here. Anyway, this is Uncle Bob's Grinch 2 script. There are illustrations included, which I will endeavor to bring up and have available when they come up. First things first here. Let's grab something we need. Let's find the context for this, which is this image right here, which made its way around the internet on a Reddit thread where someone asked what the most rascally thing was that someone's dad ever did. To which the response was that he wrote an entire Grinch 2 script, a sequel to Jim Carrey's Grinch movie specifically. The claim is that it took him 8 months, it is all stolen jokes, and it reads like a Unabomber manifesto. And that every Christmas he gets drunk and rants about how he never took it seriously, and that's why the project never went anywhere. This is a little suspect, as there is a copyright date on this script, and it is from 2023, so there could only have been up to 2 Christmases. So, that said, we can remove this. And we can get on with reading our lovely, lovely script. So, The Grinch 2, the way I see it, by Uncle Bob. So, much like the other things I have read, this is written as a script. Uh, there are camera directions and such. I'll just be reading those. And that's where we're going to be. So, Grinch 2, the way I see it. As you remember, the Whos of Whoville were celebrating Christmas with the Grinch and Martha May Whovier at the town jubilation. Grinch, as you know, was even elected as the holiday cheermeister after being nominated by Cindy Lou Who. Of course, this infuriated Mayor Augustus Mayhew, but what made him even more furious was the fact that the Grinch's and Martha's relationship continued to grow. They couldn't stay away from each other. Martha realized, though, she would have a tough task ahead of her to teach him manners, courtesy, and the respect for others so that he would fit in with the villagers. She would help him change his horrible diet and his disgusting table manners. Not only will this help him fit in better, but it will create a healthier lifestyle for him. The camera shows his first time in a restaurant. He and Martha sit down at a table, and a waitress asks them if they would like something to drink. Martha orders a glass of red wine, and he orders a bottle of Tabasco sauce. Martha corrects him and suggests a glass of red wine for him also. Martha, with an embarrassed look on her face, realizes it's going to be a long night and asks the waitress, "Could you please just get us a bottle of red wine instead?" The waitress leaves and returns with 2 wine glasses and 2 menus. She says she will be back with the bottle of wine, and as she leaves, the Grinch grabs the wine glass and bites off the base. Martha, in a panic, stops him and pulls his base from his mouth before he eats it and places it on the table. Martha says, "Honey, please put the rest of the glass on the table. I'll ask the waitress for a new one." The Grinch says, "Oh, good. That one tasted horrible. What is wrong with these restaurants today?" "It's a bottle of red wine. I misspoke. Don't be mean. Be kind." The waitress returns with a bottle of wine. Martha looks quite frazzled and says, "Could you please get us a new wine glass? He accidentally knocked his off the table and it broke." Grinch, "I didn't do..." Martha horridly puts her hand over his mouth to stop him. The waitress leaves to get a new wine glass, and the Grinch grabs the bottle of wine and starts to guzzle it down. Martha, "Grinch, please stop. You are embarrassing me." When the waitress returns with a new glass, "I will pour you a glass and show you the proper way to drink it." Oh no, did it stop? There should be a gap because it's not looping properly. Oh, did I get like... did I get like... copyright my audio exploded? Because this is obviously not public domain music. It's the Grinch theme. Okay. So... now, before the waitress returns, Martha, being a little rattled, pours herself a glass and guzzles it down. The Grinch asks, "That's the way you're supposed to drink it?" Martha says, No, you must have misunderstood me. I am showing you how not to drink it. The waitress returns with his new glass and says, I'll give you folks a few minutes to look at the menu. She walks away. Martha pours herself a second glass and then pours him a glass. And then Martha says, okay, you have to sip slowly to savor the flavor. Watch me. Martha slowly takes a sip and says, and that's the proper way to drink your wine. The Grinch raises the glass to his mouth and starts to gulp, and Martha raises her hand and says, no, 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 sip it slowly. He slowly takes a sip, moves his lips in a motion while looking upward, as he is deciding if he likes it. He takes a second sip, nods his head up and down a couple of times, and says, I love it. Martha picks up a menu and hands it to the Grinch, and then picks one up for herself. If you need help choosing anything, let me know, and don't be afraid to ask me any questions if you don't understand. Grinch says, can't I just have yesterday's leftovers? And Martha says, no, that's disgusting, and it's not safe. And Grinch says, oh, okay, then I'll have today's leftovers. And Martha says, no, sweetheart, that's still disgusting, and it's not good for you. You have to start eating better. You must start eating healthier. From now on, you eat only fresh food, okay? The Grinch studies the menu and says to Martha, I think I'll have the filet mignon. And Martha says, that's pronounced filet mignon. And Grinch says, what is filet mignon? With a snooty accent. And Martha says, it's a type of steak, which I know you will enjoy. I think I'm going to have the lasagna. The waitress comes and asks, hello, Martha. Hello, Mr. Grinch. Are you ready to order? Martha, can I start with you? And Martha answers, let's start with him because he's going to need some help with this. Martha says, go ahead, Grinch. Give it a try. The Grinch says, I'll have the filet mignon, with a snooty voice. The waitress says, how would you like that cooked? The Grinch says, if you don't know how to cook it, you shouldn't be in the restaurant business. Martha says to the waitress, I'm sorry, he doesn't understand. And Martha turns to the Grinch and says, what she means is, do you want it rare, medium, or well done? And the Grinch replies grumpily, of course I want it done well. If I wanted it done lousy, then I wouldn't pay these outrageous prices at a restaurant, now would I? No, I did not draw any of the art except for the little tag of the little guy with the bourbon in the corner on this that I will be showing. All of this art is included with the script to help visualize the majesty of Uncle Bob's vision. And Martha says, Grinch, no, what she means is, oh, never mind. And she turns to the waitress and says, he would like it medium, please. And the waitress looks at Grinch. What side would you like? Grinch, while looking quite confused, points with both hands to the right and then point with both hands to the left. Then he points in front of himself and says, I would prefer to have it right here. Martha steps in again and says, he will have a baked potato, please. The waitress again looks at the Grinch and asks, soup or salad? The Grinch says, yes. The waitress looks at Martha for help, and Martha simply says, salad, please. And then Martha tells the Grinch, you have to choose one or the other. You can't have both. And the waitress just asks Martha, what dressing would he like? Martha says, he would like the blue cheese dressing. And the Grinch says, hey, did you hear about the one who caught the one about the cook who caught the salad dressing? And then while laughing out loud, he says, I love that one. It cracks me up every time. The waitress gives a quick, nervous smile and immediately turns to Martha and asks what she wants. Martha says, I'll have the lasagna and a salad with the house dressing. The Grinch laughs out loud again and says, Ha ha! I never saw a house dressing. Was it made of bare wood? The waitress turns and leaves as quickly as possible. Martha takes another large gulp from her wineglass. Good idea, Martha. The camera pans away and shows them leaving the restaurant, commentating on what a great meal they had and flagging down a cab. Narrator, every day, every outing that Martha and Grinch do together is a challenge for Martha. She loves him dearly, but he is not easy to deal with. One day, Martha took him grocery shopping. It was his first time in a grocery store. Martha grabbed the shopping cart and started going down the aisle. The Grinch, let me do it, let me do it. And the way a small child would say it, jumping up and down. Martha lets Grinch take over, pushing the cart. Okay, but please be careful. Martha would grab items off the shelf and put them in the cart. The Grinch, let me do it. The Grinch slides his arm down the shelf, knocking half of the items in the cart and half of them onto the floor. Martha says quite loudly, Grinch, please stop. You are making a mess, and we do not need all that stuff. Put them back on the shelf and help me pick up everything. The Grinch, being the Grinch, rolls his eyes while muttering under his breath. He does as she is asked, but of course is putting everything in the wrong spots, upside down, etc. Thankfully, a stock boy comes around the corner and tells them not to worry. He will take care of everything. And Martha says to the stock boy, Thank you so much for your help. We are so sorry. Martha turns to the Grinch and tells him to apologize to the stock boy. The Grinch, while looking down towards his feet and with a sad face, mumbles softly, I'm sorry. And Martha says, Grinch, say it like you mean it. The Grinch holds his hands down to his side and shuffles his right foot and says louder, I'm very sorry. And the stock boy says, That's okay, Mr. Grinch. I'll take care of it. Finally, they move on. When they turn the corner and go up the next aisle, the Grinch crashes the cart into a lady's cart, which was on the side of the aisle. The lady looks up at the Grinch and gives him a dirty look. The Grinch says to Martha, What's her problem? Martha says, Grinch, you crashed into her cart. The Grinch says, But she was parked there. Martha says, So go around her. The Grinch rolls his eyes again and says, Well, I guess I could have done that. They go to the end of the aisle, and then Grinch cuts the corner too sharp and bangs his cart into a display shelf loaded with soft drink bottles, knocking the bottom leg of the shelf out, and all of the bottles rolled off the shelf for what seemed like an eternity. Grinch, putting his hands around his mouth and quite loudly yells, Clean up on aisle 6! Oh my, I just cracked myself up. Around the corner comes the same stock boy that just finished cleaning up their last mess. And the Grinch says to the stock boy, You know, it's really not my fault. My girlfriend pushed me. Martha says, That is absolutely, positively not true. That's it. I'm taking cart duty away from you until you learn to be more careful. Grinch leans over to the stock boy and says, She said duty, and laughs out loud. The stock boy shakes his head and bends down to start picking up the mess. Martha takes over pushing the cart, and she says to him, Honey, please stop acting like a child. You must be more careful and thoughtful to people around you. The Grinch says, Well, yeah, but I always say I'm sorry, and I help pick the stuff up off the floor. Martha says, okay, I agree. That's nice. But you shouldn't be causing problems in the first place. Grinch says, okay, I promise. I will get better. Baby steps, Martha. Baby steps. Martha rolls her eyes. The Grinching out. The Grinch picks up a bundle of bananas and asks Martha, why are these fat and yellow and not brown and floppy? Martha says, that's the way they're supposed to look when they are fresh. Put them in the cart. You'll love them, but you will have to wait until we are home to eat them. The Grinch looks at a loaf of bread and asks, so this is white and not green. What's the deal? Martha says, just like the bananas, except it's white when it's fresh, and it turns green and moldy when it starts to go bad. And the Grinch says, that explains everything. I just thought the Who's didn't like anything that was green. Go back to the narrator saying, they continue going up and down the aisles, with Martha choosing what to buy while explaining what each item is. And sometimes she would ask Grinch to grab items that were too high for her, and he would place them in the cart. It seems as though the Grinch is starting to calm down and starting to learn to be more helpful and thoughtful. All of a sudden, Grinch stops in front of a shelf with cans of baked beans. Martha, what are these? Martha says, those are baked beans. Why do you ask? The Grinch says, when I would scrounge the Who's trash for food, I would come across these cans, but they were always empty. I would rub my finger on the inside and get the most out of it that I could, then lick my finger. I loved the taste of it. Can we get some? Martha says, okay, but you can't have too much at a time because it can give you gas, and you certainly don't need any more than you already have. Take like 3 cans for now, and we will see if you like it. And she mutters under her breath, or if I like it. The camera fades away, and we fade into scene at Grinch's cave. The Grinch would return to his cave after spending every day with Martha May, and would try to convince himself that he was happy in his own surroundings. Grinch, I have all of these modern conveniences, and I have plenty of delicious food. The camera shows him picking up handfuls of broken glass. Although I do have to admit, the filet mignon the other night was to die for. Grinch turns over to Max and says, I really don't need people to like me. Grinch cups his hand around his mouth and yells, I don't need people to like me. You hear an echo come back. I don't need people to like me. Grinch yells back with a puzzled look on his face. Right? The echo yells back, you're an idiot. Grinch looks frustrated and bounces back into his chair. He looks over at Max and says, right? Max growls. The Grinch stands back up and says, okay, maybe I'm not right. I think I'm in love, and I want to spend the rest of my life with Martha May. Grinch does a happy dance. Grinch looks down at Max, who is doing a happy dance also. The camera fades away. And then go back to the narrator. The Grinch and Martha May continue to see each other for many months. On this one special day, the two of them are having a great time at the Leon Day Hubation with all the townspeople. For those who don't know, Leon Day is June 25th, which is halfway to Christmas. Leon is Noel spelled backwards. The Grinch takes Martha's hand and walks her up to the head table where the mayor and all the town officials are sitting. Martha is totally confused as to what is happening. The Grinch stops with Martha in front of the mayor and reaches over to grab the microphone. Apparently there's a microphone. Could I please have your attention? He puts the microphone back on the table next to him. He turns to Martha, kneels down on one knee, and asks, Martha May, will you be my wife? She is excited and overwhelmed. Yes, yes, yes! He opens a ring box and takes out a beautiful ring and slides it on her finger, then stands and gives her a big kiss. All the Who's in Whoville are cheering and clapping and excited for the couple, except for one. The camera does a close-up disgusted look of the mayor's face, Mayor Augustus Mayhew. They go back to their table and she asks him, "Where did you get this beautiful ring?" The Grinch says, "I made it at the same time I made you the Christmas ornament that I brought to school that day. I wanted to give it to you that same day as a friendship ring, but as you know, that didn't go very well." The camera fades into a flashback. Don't worry, Dopper Dragon. You haven't really missed much. And there it says, "We all know how that turned out." Show a flashback of the Grinch making the ornament, and also a new scene of him making her the ring, with all the small fragments of the stones of various colors that he broke up with the hammer. He melted the fragments onto a small ring he found. He had the ring in his pocket when he went to school that day, but never gave it to her because that day turned out so awful for him. He had that ring in his pocket when he ran away from Whoville, thinking he would never return. He cherished that ring and saved it as a remembrance of Martha. The camera fades into the following scene. Show a scene or scenes of Martha and Grinch sitting in Martha's home with many discussions on whether to move into a new home or stay in her existing home, what to do with his cave and all of his belongings. The Grinch says, "How about we sell this dump and move into my cave? It is completely furnished with plenty of space. You don't have to worry about taxes, crowds, paying bills." But before he got to finish, Martha said, "That is completely off the table. First of all, this place is not a dump, and there is absolutely no way I would move into that dark, dirty, damp, disgusting hole in a mountain." Grinch says, "Okay, I guess I agree. It does have some minor issues, like, while nodding his head up and down and counting on his fingers, no fresh air, no bathrooms, no fire exit, no open floor concept between the cooking area and the eating area. Oh, how I love that look. And not enough room for that king-size bed we want." Martha says, "Well, I'm glad you came to your senses on that topic. We can live here for a while, and then we can start looking for a larger place to live, where we'll have enough room to start a family someday." Grinch, fa, 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 fa. Martha says, "That's right, a family. My clock is ticking, and I would love to have a child. Wouldn't you?" Grinch, still looking on in shock. Fa, 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 fa. "Well, I guess I never really thought about it before, but I guess I would love to have some baby. Martha's and baby Grinch's around." There's a period there. I don't know why. Grinch says, "If we want a new house and raise a family..." Grinch puts his finger on his lips for a couple of seconds and points his finger in the air, as he has an idea. "I have to figure out how to earn a living. I've got to get a job." Martha says, Lou said there's an opening at the post office." Grinch says, "No way I can stay in a building all day. I have to tinker, design things, build things with my bare hands, just like all those inventions in my cave." Pacing back and forth with his arms to his side, "I know some of them seem primitive, but it was with junk I just collected from the Who's trash. And with hardly any tools except the broken or worn out tools that would come up the trash chute every now and then. Even then, most tools I would make myself." Narrator, "The Grinch is actually very lucky with his timing to live in Whoville, as they had closed the trash chute. They had created a trash-to-energy power station and a recycling center. Most of his food sources stopped in the process. The Who's intention was not to shut him off, as they didn't know he was living off their garbage. They just wanted to create a cleaner environment all around them." And Grinch suddenly shouts, "I've got it!" Martha says, "Oh boy, I can't wait to hear this." And the Grinch says, we might have to get a loan from the bank to get started, but we can build a ski slope on the mountain, make my cave into some sort of a clubhouse or a lodge, and maybe a food stand. I can build a gondola to carry people up and down the mountain. When there is no snow, we can just give rides. I'm I'm getting so excited just thinking about it. I can do it. I know I can. Grinch gets up and does his happy dance. That's giving me flashbacks to pony stuff. Martha says, I have never seen you so excited, you know that? I believe you can do it. That's a great idea. Grinch says, oh. Martha, while giggling with excitement, says, What? What? Tell me, what is it? And Grinch says, the old trash chute. We can clean it really good and let the kids slide down it. And when they are at the bottom, they can ride the gondola back to the top. Maybe I'll even paint it so it looks like a big, long candy cane. The Grinch, while pointing to each finger, says, we can serve hot chocolate and coffee in the colder months, and serve ice cream and soft drinks and shakes in the summer. We can barbecue roast beef sandwiches and roast beef burgers. Grinch rubs his belly and says, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. The Grinch says, I'm going to town hall tomorrow and see what we have to do to get this started. And Martha says, I'll go with you because I love this idea and I want to be a part of it. I'm not sure how the mayor is going to feel about this, but it's actually a win-win. It's going to be so much fun for the kids and the adults, and we are cleaning up dirty sites and creating jobs and tax revenue for Whoville. Woot woot! Let's do it! So I've never seen the Jim Carrey Grinch movie. I'll go ahead and I'll just put that out there where we all can see it. But what I really need to know is shouting woot woot a thing that the Who's do in that movie? Or is Uncle Bob just, like, secretly a juggalo and just let it leak out there for a bit? Because it really stands out. Grinch says, I've got to write down some of these ideas, and I'll make some sketches to show the mayor. And I've got to... The camera fades away and fades back into a variety of scenes in fast motion with Grinch, with a pencil in each side of his head, a pencil sideways in his mouth, and of him drawing, making lines with a ruler, drawing with a protractor and a compass ruler, papers flying all over the place, Grinch tearing up plans and loud mumbling of really badly written, like, censored words. I don't even know what it's supposed to be. The Grinch stands up from his drawing table and holds up one of his large blueprints. You can barely see the drawings because the camera is showing from the backside of the paper looking towards the Grinch, and he says, we will name it Mount Crumpet Park. Camera fades away and fades into a scene at Town Hall. Martha and Grinch do go to Town Hall with their ideas and their sketches and their blueprints. They see Mayor Mayhew and sit down with their plans. Grinch sets up a tripod and pulls down the large sketch of the entire park complex. He opens up a telescoping pointer and begins to explain to the mayor. Unfortunately, Uncle Bob... I'm sorry, I have to be kind to Uncle Bob. That was one of the rules. So Uncle Bob included an illustration. This illustration is of the Grinch with his tripod and telescoping pointer to explain his blueprints. Which is very small. It's this right here. So, as should be clear to everyone, this is an easel. There is some manner of large wheel, and this appears to be Mount Crumpet with a gondola or ski lift up the side of it. And this is the Grinch pointing towards it. No, I don't know the man. I don't know the man, but one of the rules of the stream is we have to be kind to each other and we have to be kind to Uncle Bob. I'm not here for negativity. I'm here to examine outsider art. But that's the that is the Grinch and his tripod, which is an easel. While pointing to each section as he is explaining, the Grinch says, "At the bottom of the mountain, we will have a gate entrance to the park. There will be 2 food stands, one around here, and we can bring the other one up on the top of the mountain. We'll have one of those big turning things here." Martha jumps in and says, "A Ferris wheel." The Grinch says, "Over here, the guests can hop onto a gondola for a ride to the top, or during the ski season, the skiers can take a ride on the ski lift. The skiers will ski down the slope, which ends here, and they get back on the ski lift here." While motioning with his pointer, he says, "Also, somewhere around here, we will have a large hot air balloon which can take up to 6 passengers up and down the mountain." Again, while pointing with his pointer, "The kiddos, maybe their parents, if they dare, can slide down the old trash chute, which we will clean up and paint it to look like a big candy cane. I will move the end of the trash chute so it doesn't go all the way to the town. They will enter up here and exit down here, and hop on the gondola and do it all over again." The Grinch says, "We will have food and drink stands here at the top," while pointing, in front of the existing cave entrance. "I will block off the cave entrance, so no one can enter for now. I think if all goes well, I will eventually come up with an idea for the cave. Maybe lodging or something. One phase at a time." Martha gets up and claps with excitement and says to the mayor, "Augustus, what do you think?" And the mayor says, "You know, I can benefit from the tax revenue. I mean, the village can benefit from the tax revenue, and it's a great way to get rid of that stinky trash chute. I hate to say it, but it's a fantastic idea. I wish I had thought of it. We can name it Mayor Mayhew Park." Martha shakes her head. "Oh no, we are going to name it Mount Crumpet Park. We want to preserve the history of Mount Crumpet, while making it a fun place for everyone." And the mayor rubs his cheeks and says, "Okay, I like it. I will help you get all the permits you need." The mayor and Grinch shake hands. Mayor turns and hugs Martha, but he's still not letting go for a few moments. Martha looks over at the Grinch and rolls her eyes. The Grinch says, "Okay, Augie boy, that'll be enough." And the mayor says, "Oh, of course, I was just caught up thinking about the park." The camera fades away. Grinch and Max start their very first of many mornings going to work on the park project. Grinch puts on a hard hat and puts a small hard hat on Max. Max looks into a mirror and smiles and wags his tail. Grinch says, "Come on, Max, let's get started. We'll never get anything done if you just want to sit here and admire yourself." Show scenes of Grinch sawing some trees at the base of the mountain that will be in the path of the gondola. Show Grinch sawing the tree, and Max on the other end of the saw, hanging on for dear life, while the saw goes back and forth, banging Max into the side of the tree. Max is starting to see stars. This has another lovely little illustration. And the Grinch says in his grumpy voice, Hey, what are you doing over here? This is not a joyride. If you're not going to help, start gathering those branches over there and move them away. The camera can show Max grabbing some branches with his mouth and dragging them out of the way. At the base of the mountain, he trims all the branches off a very large tree, which the end of the gondola cable will be attached to. The cables will also attach to the top of the second tree, about 3/4 of the way down the mountain. One of the last trees before the mountain turns into rocky, rugged, and steep terrain. Max is a branch manager. He should get a little hoodie. The next scene can show Grinch with a welder's helmet welding a large steel pole to a steel base, which he already bolted to the rocks on the side of the mountain. Grinch stops welding and opens his helmet to ask Max for another welding rod. He sees Max standing there with a welder's helmet on. And Grinch says, "What in the world are you doing?" Grinch walks... Oh no. Grinch walks over and opens Max's helmet to find Max chewing on a dog biscuit. Grinch looks around in a grumpy voice. "Where are those welding rods I asked you for?" Max pulls his helmet back down. Grinch pulls Max's helmet back open, and the grumpy voice points to his right. "Max, come on. They are over there in the bottom drawer of that blue toolbox over there. I already told you that. Now go get some and bring them to me. Max, you have to keep up with me. We still have 3 more poles to go." The narrator says, "Grinch is starting to realize how overwhelming this entire project will be. It's definitely much too big to handle himself, and he may have to employ some tradespeople to help. After all, he and Martha will need help running the park once it's opened anyway." One day, while working, Grinch remembered that Gus Who built his own hot air balloon. He could use Gus to build a large hot air balloon with a basket large enough to hold about 6 people or more. Grinch will also use Gus to build about 10 smaller baskets that can hold 2 people each for the gondolas. Once the park is open, Gus can have a full-time job giving people rides. A scene showing the Grinch in his cave, sitting in his chair attempting to call Gus, looking up Gus's phone number in his phone book. He is fumbling through the pages, and finally reaches the beginning of the list of Who's. Grinch, while running his finger vertically down the list. Alan Who, Alex Who, Alice Who, Avery Who, Barbie Who. Grinch looks at the camera. She makes a great barbecue. Betty Lou Who, Bobby Who, Butch Who. Oh, this is ridiculous. I'll just call the operator. Grinch dials 0 to speak to the operator. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. The operator answers, "Hello, how may I be of assistance to you?" Oh wait, I'm sorry, I misread. "Hello, how may I be of assist to you?" And the Grinch says, "Can you help connect me with someone?" And the operator says, "And who would you like to speak to?" The Grinch says, "Yes, how did you know that?" The operator says, "How did I know what?" And the Grinch says, "Who I wanted to speak to." The operator says, "I don't know who you want to speak to. You didn't tell me yet, sir." And the Grinch, in a grumpy voice, says, "I want to speak to Gus Who." And the operator says, "Please, sir, I don't have time to guess who. I am very busy here. Please tell me the name of the party you would like to speak to." And the Grinch, getting angry, says, "Party? What party? Why was I not invited?" The operator says, "Sir, there is no party. What I am asking is, what person would you like to talk to? And the Grinch says his name is Gus Who. First name is Gus, not Guess. Gus, and his last name is Who. The operator says, 1 moment, please. The Grinch, while on hold, looks into the camera. What's the deal with these phone operators? They have to pass a rude test to get a job at the phone company? I do not believe that the Grinch is forklift certified. I'm just going to throw that out there. Grinch hears a couple of clicks, and then Gus answers the phone. Gus Who here? The Grinch starts to flip out and looks up at the camera. Oh, I am so fed up. Oh, oops. He said Gus Who, not Guess Who. Almost got me there. And Grinch says, Hi, Gus, it's Grinch. I have a proposal for you. I would like to hire you to do some work for us on our new park project on Mount Crumpet. Is that something you might be interested in? Well, Mr. Grinch, to be honest with you, I am quite bored at my present job, and I don't make very much. Been doing the same thing for years. The Grinch says, We had heard you made your own balloon and basket. We are going to need a big hot air balloon with a basket and some smaller baskets for a gondola ride. And Gus says, Well, okay, I can do that. How big of a balloon? And the Grinch says, Maybe to hold 6 or 8 people. And the gondolas, I need to hold 2 people, but I need 10 of them. And Gus says, Wow, that's a pretty big project. I'm not sure if I can handle all that. I don't know if this is a character from the previous movie or what he sounds like at all. I'm just spitballing. The Grinch says, If you show Martha May and Betty Lou how to weave, they can weave all the baskets to your specifica the way you want them. And Gus says, You mean specifications? And Grinch says, Yeah, sure. All rolling his eyes. Whatever. And once everything is ready, you can work full-time at the park, either giving hot air balloon rides or helping to run the ski slope. Gus says, Let's get together. Sounds like a plan. And Grinch says, Gus, one other thing. I'm going to need a lot more help with so many things. While holding the phone to his left here, he is talking and counting with his right hand. I have a lot more welding to do, carpentry work, electrical, plumbing. And he looks into the camera and says, I know I'm amazing, but I just can't do it all. Gus says, I'll start asking around. I'm sure we can come up with some help for you. Come on down and we'll figure this out. Grinch hangs up his phone and the camera fades away. Show scenes. Camera can show different stages of the baskets being built by Gus while training Martha May and Betty Lou. Also, scenes of the new, larger hot air balloon basket being built, which will fit 6 people. Show scenes of Gus working on a gas heater, with Martha and Betty sewing the large fabric panels together to make up the balloon. Miscellaneous additional scenes of construction. Show Max and Grinch and about a dozen or so workers finishing the poles with crossbars and cables, which will support the gondola system. Scenes of workers hanging the gondola baskets, painting the steel structures supporting the gondolas, and also painting the old trash chute to give it a clean, fun look. Scenes with Martha and Grinch hanging onto a rope tied to the top of the trash chute while they are scrubbing and cleaning it all the way to the bottom. Martha constantly complaining of the smell, and a scene with Max sitting on a big sponge and writing it down the chute, of course with a big smile. Scenes of the final preparations before the park is opened. Show the park entrance with admission booth. Sign above the entrance with Mount Crumpet Park. Show gondolas going back and forth from the top and the bottom, and the balloon ride, which goes back and forth to the top as well. 2 food stands, one at the bottom and one at the top. I don't think the Grinch would pay his union dues. I think he would get Jimmy Hoffa pretty quickly. opening day comes, and everybody is there. Mayor Augustus Mayhew has a speech prepared and steps in front of the microphone, as he always manages to do. Mayor Mayhew, with Grinch, Martha, Betty Lou, and Gus standing to his left, Hubris and Officer Houlihan to his right. Is Hubris a character that I should know who that is? Like hubris, but who instead of Hugh. But the mayor says, I want to thank everyone for coming today to this wonderful occasion. It took a lot of work to get to this point. When I first came up with this idea, the Grinch pokes the mayor in the back. As I was saying, when I suggested this idea, the Grinch pokes him in the back a little harder. When the Grinch came up with this idea, I immediately approved of it. The people in the audience clapped and cheered. Not only was this a great way to use that useless mountain's resources, but it created jobs, tax revenue for the village, and lots of fun for the kiddos and adults alike. I couldn't have done it without... The Grinch pokes him in the back a third time. The mayor clears his throat. Okay, let me now turn the mic over to Grinch. The crowd cheered so loudly you couldn't hear yourself think. They were clapping and whistling. The little ones were jumping up and down with excitement. The camera pans back over to the mayor. He is rather frustrated over all of the cheering for the Grinch. The Grinch takes the mic from the mayor, but he can't even begin to talk because the crowd is cheering so loudly. Grinch, thank you. The overloud cheering continues. Please, thank you. Grinch puts his finger to his mouth to gesture to be quiet. Please, we've got to get this park opened so you folks can have some fun. The crowd starts to quiet. Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to my sweetheart, Martha May, Gus Who, Betty Lou, and the Professor, and don't forget my little buddy Max. Also, a special thanks to Maker's Mark. Also, a special thanks to all those extra people that came on board during this whole process, and to the people that are here today running the park. As a special surprise, everything today is free. Free food and drink for all. In an extremely deepened voice, he says, for everyone's safety, no alcohol can be purchased or consumed at the park. Unfortunately, I am above the law. The Grinch puts his left hand to his mouth and lets out an ear-piercing whistle, which I will not do, because that would be mean. The gates open, as Grinch then raises his arm in the air. Let the fun begin! Oh man, here's the big picture. Yeah. There it is, guys. There's Mount Crumpet Park. Doesn't it look amazing? I want to ride down the big garbage slide. The camera can pan over crowds getting on the gondolas and in line for the hot air balloon, and the food and drink stands are filling up quickly. The narrator says, as you can see, the park is a complete success. The Whos of Whoville are so happy with the additional entertainment the park provides for the entire family. Grinch and Martha become quite the celebrities in the village, which we know doesn't go over too well with the mayor. When the snow starts to fall and the ski slopes will open, and the ski lifts will be filled with skiers. And the narrator says, Grinch and Martha May decide they want to get married in the fall. Wedding invitations go out to all the Who's in Whoville. I appreciate that people did the research for me. Okay, Hubris is a character from the movie. Thank you, Jules. The camera can show hundreds of Who's opening their invitations and cheering with joy. The camera shows the mayor opening his invitation and reading the announcement, and zoom in on his face, looking terribly disgusted. The villagers are so excited and can't wait for the big day. It's going to be the largest wedding celebration in the history of the village. With everyone being so busy with the park, the big day arrives in a flash. The camera shows hundreds of people sitting in an outside pavilion-type setup. Head table in the front, Justice of the Peace standing in the center in front of the table. Wedding music begins with some sort of Who-style twist to it. The crowd rises to their feet. The Grinch enters from the right, wearing a tuxedo, and looks quite charming. He stops alongside the Justice, and is followed by his best man, Gus Who. The maid of honor, Betty Lou Who, comes down the center aisle. Max, the ring bearer, comes next, holding a small basket in his mouth with the 2 wedding bands in it. You know, there's a picture of, like, everything else Max does in this entire story, but not this. That's so weird. Cindy Lou Who is the flower girl. Follows, dropping rose petals on her way. They all line up on the left side of the jop. Wedding... Oh, it's supposed to be Justice of the Peace. He just wrote JOP. He wrote it as an acronym, okay. Wedding music volume increases, and Martha May comes down the center aisle with her long flowing wedding gown, with a long train which is still at the beginning of the aisle. Martha stops in front of the JOP. Betty gathers up the train, which she keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Finally, she comes to the end and places it behind Martha. Grinch and Martha turn to each other and hold each other's hands. Grinch whispers, "You are stunning." And Martha whispers back, "And you are quite handsome yourself, young fellow." The Grinch says, "By the way, why are we dressed so nice?" "Oh, that's right, we're getting married today." The camera shows Martha shaking her head lightly. Grinch has a smirk, and everyone breaks out in laughter, including the Jop. The Jop says, "Please be seated. Thank you. Friends, family, and fellow Who's, we come together today as you are asked to witness the joining of the Grinch and Martha in marriage. We gather around them now in Whoville, and we look on with love and hope as these two begin their new life together as one." The camera shows Max stand on his back legs with the ring basket in his mouth, alongside Grinch. Grinch says in a whisper, "Max, no, not now." Max gets back down on all fours. Does Max want to marry the Grinch? I think Max wants to marry the Grinch. Marriage is a sacred institution in our culture. It's a tradition of partnership, of trust, and of dependence on each other to navigate the sometimes stormy seas of life. The camera pans over to Grinch, who says, while spinning his right index finger in a motion as if to indicate let's move it along, blah, blah, blah. And Justice P says, "If anyone present objects to these two being united in marriage, please speak now or forever hold your peace." The camera shows the mayor start to raise his hand, but he is stopped by Officer Houlihan. The Jop says, "At this time, Grinch and Martha will exchange rings. The wedding ring is a symbol of love, devotion, and never-ending commitment between two people." The camera is on Max, who stands on his back legs again alongside Grinch. What the fuck, Max? And once again, Grinch whispers, "No, Max, not yet." The Jop says, "Grinch, do you take Martha May to be your lawfully wedded wife? Will you honor and cherish her, love, trust, and commit to her through joy and pain, sickness and health, till death do you part?" Grinch takes Martha's hand and says, "I do." The Jop says, the ring? And the Grinch says, now, Max, now! Max, while the guests are laughing, stands up alongside Grinch with the basket. Grinch reaches in and takes out Martha's ring and slides it onto Martha's finger, saying, I do. And the Jop says, Martha, do you take Grinch to be your lawfully wedded husband? Will you honor and cherish him, love, trust, and commit to him through joy and pain, sickness and health, until death do you part? Max stands near Martha, and Martha takes ring from basket and slides onto Grinch's finger and says, I do. I did not leave any words out there, though, I promise. That is how it's written. The Jop says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The camera shows a close-up of Grinch with a wide smile and tears of joy in his eyes as he leans forward and gives Martha a kiss. Martha gently wipes the tears from his eyes. It would be a green wedding, sir. Not a red wedding. Grinch leans forward again and gives her a long and passionate kiss. They turn as the guests are clapping and cheering and walks down the aisle hand in hand as the wedding party follows. The camera fades away and fades into the reception dinner. The camera is showing scenes in a large hall. Head table up front with the newly married couple, and on each side members of the wedding party. Even Max is at the table enjoying himself and the treats on his plate. Hundreds of tables are filled with the invited guests, people dancing, banging their glasses with their silverware to coax the couple to kiss, people eating and drinking, laughing, Grinch and Martha having their first dance, a slow dance. The mayor comes up and taps on Grinch's shoulder. The narrator says, Martha had spent a lot of time teaching Grinch how to dance. Fast dances, slow dances. She warned him of all the traditions that can occur during the reception. She even warned him of men wanting to dance with the bride, and how they would come up and tap your shoulder. And it's a tradition that it's okay for you to let them cut in. The camera shows Grimp step aside. The mayor takes Martha's hand, and the two of them start their slow dance. Grinch is standing alongside the two of them with his arms folded. He looks at his watch to see how long it's been. The mayor is smiling ear to ear, and Martha looks confused, as she doesn't know how to put a stop to it. The Grinch looks over at a clock on the wall, showing the hands in fast motion, clicking a few minutes, and he decides that's enough. The Grinch says, Okay, Augie boy, that'll be enough. This is our day, not yours. The mayor says, But I just got here. The Grinch gently pulls the mayor away from Martha and says, And now you're done. Time's up. The Grinch begins to dance with Martha, and the slow song ends. They start to walk off the dance floor when a fast song starts that they both like. They turn back to the dance floor. They start dancing, and the crowd is cheering at how fantastic they are doing together, never expecting the Grinch to be such a good dancer. The camera can continue to show more dances, more fellows tapping the Grinch's shoulder and dancing with Martha as the narrator kicks in. By far the biggest gathering of people to celebrate a wedding, Grinch and Martha May are having the time of their lives, but now we'll be moving into the next chapter of their lives. The business is booming. They are now a happy couple, and the Grinch definitely feels welcome as one of the citizens of Whoville. It's time to start looking for that new home they had talked about. A house that will be a little larger if they decide to start a family, and maybe a little closer to Crumpet Park. The camera fades away. The camera can show Grinch and Martha sitting on a couch together, looking at a real estate magazine. We're being kind because it is good to be kind. And at least this far, Bob has not done anything to warrant being treated cruelly. Martha points to a photo and says, How about this one? The Grinch looks closely. Too small. Yeah, If there is one thing about this, I could definitely say Uncle Bob wasn't fucking around. He did try. I'm not saying that he was competent or effective at what he set out to do, or even necessarily that what he set out to do was a good idea. But it's not. I don't think this is a joke on Uncle Bob's behalf. It definitely doesn't feel that way. Grinch looks closely at the photo and says, "Too small." And the Grinch points to the one, and Martha says, "Too big." And Grinch points to another, and Martha says, "Too close to the mayor's house." And Grinch says, "Oh, good catch." And Martha turns the page and points, "How about this one?" And Grinch says, "3 stories, too many stairs." Martha points to another one. "This one is perfect. Nice yard, sidewalk in the front, garage, close to Crumpet Park." Grinch looks down, eyes open wide with excitement. "That is marvelous. Let's go check it out." There, Martha and Grinch love the house and decide that's the one. Now begins the difficult task of moving in. They have to move Martha's furniture from the old home into the new one, which goes fairly smoothly. It has not only been 10 minutes. Don't lie. Don't mess with me like that. The camera can show people moving, carrying larger items in, and Martha and Grinch carrying smaller items in. A second, larger truck pulls up in front of the house. Grinch runs over to the truck and points to the driveway and says, "Back it in here, boys." Martha runs out to the Grinch, who is guiding the truck that is backing into the driveway. "What? Did you buy us new furniture?" And Grinch says, "Honey, I know we can't afford to buy new furniture now. This is all my stuff from the cave." Martha buries her head in her hands for a second, then covers her mouth. The tailgate opens, and Martha gasps as junk starts rolling out for what seemed an eternity. Have large bowls, pots and pans, bowling balls and pins, old tires, hubcaps rolling out, the sound of dishes breaking and things banging and crashing. Martha looks over at the driver's window and sees Max there with his tail wagging 100 miles an hour. There's no picture for this either. Oh, man. There's no pictures for any of the stuff I want pictures for. Martha walks over to the door and reaches up to grab him. "Max, you poor thing, come to me, sweetheart. Let me show you your new home." Martha carries him up the sidewalk and through the front door. She gives him a big hug as she is rocking back and forth. Martha puts him down and says, "Max, follow me. I want to show you where your doggy bed is and where you can find your food. Okay, Max, you can eat or take a nap, whatever you want to do, but Grinch and I have a lot of work to do, okay?" All of a sudden, a look of total fear comes across Martha's face when she remembered she still has to deal with the load of junk that's being unloaded. Martha runs back out front just in time to see Grinch dragging his ugly, torn, duct tape-covered recliner off the trailer and up the sidewalk, and bumps into Martha, who is blocking the front steps, and she points to the large garbage bin. The Grinch says, "What? This chair is so comfortable." "Okay, maybe it needs to be recovered. Maybe a nice plush mauve plaid pattern." The camera zooms in on holes in the cushions, showing bugs crawling in and out of crevices. Right now, we are at page 20. I might not end up reading all of this tonight, because Uncle Bob writes in a very dense fashion, but I would like to get to the halfway point, so we're about halfway there. I think there's more photos from here on out, more images, which also makes the pages take less time. There's less giant blocks of paragraph. Martha says, absolutely not. That thing is disgusting. She points again to the junk bin. In the next scene, Grinch is dragging the monster head loudspeaker, the one that amplified Max's bark, up the sidewalk, and once again is greeted by Martha. Martha says, are you kidding me? She points again to the bin. The Grinch says, but. But once again, she points to the bin. In the next scene, Grinch is carrying his scary mask, looks at Martha, and puts his thumb up and then down again to question her thoughts. Martha gives him the thumbs down. From where he is standing, he throws it into the bin. Have repeated scenes of him holding ugly items and giving her thumbs up, and then him lowering his shoulder and tossing them into the bin. The camera fades away. Now that Max is comfortable in his new home, Martha decides that Max could use some company, as Martha and Grinch are going to be busy running Mount Crumpet Park. She goes to the pound and adopts a puppy that reminds her of Grinch. Martha May comes up with the name Yoo-Hoo for their new puppy. The first day Yoo-Hoo comes home, the Grinch accidentally lets him out the front door. And Yoo-Hoo takes off like a flash. The Grinch goes out to the front sidewalk looking for the dog and starts to panic. He doesn't see him anywhere. Grinch frantically yells out, Yoo-Hoo! Yoo-Hoo! A couple walking down the street, sidewalk, turn and say, who, us? And Grinch says, no, Yoo-Hoo! And the husband says, who, you? And the Grinch angrily says, no, not me, Yoo-Hoo! The husband points to his wife and says, who, her? And Grinch, getting angrier, says, no, not her, him. The husband says, him who? The Grinch, even angrier, says, no, Yoo-Hoo, my dog. The husband says, you don't remember your dog's name? The Grinch, in a grumpy voice, says, of course I remember my dog's name. His name is Yoo-Hoo. Just then, another woman walking down the walk says, who, me? And the first man tells her, no, his dog, Yoo-Hoo. The second woman says, who, him? And Grinch, extremely frustrated, says, no, Yoo-Hoo. The second woman again says, no, him, and then points at the dog sitting behind the Grinch. The Grinch, extremely frustrated and embarrassed, turns and picks up Yoo-Hoo and carries him into the house while muttering under his breath all the way. And the camera fades away. Fall is in full color as the leaves are just starting to drop. Grinch and Martha's life seems perfect. The park is doing well, and they love their new home. Max and Yoo-Hoo are very comfortable in their new warm and cozy home as well. The camera can show Grinch in his new recliner reading the paper and Martha reading Who's World magazine, the two dogs sleeping in their beds. The topic of raising a family comes up again, and for the first time, Grinch is not in a panic. They discuss telling Martha's parents about maybe someday becoming grandparents, and the subject of the Grinch's parents comes up. Well, as you know, he doesn't know who his parents are or where he came from, but he had heard a rumor that more Grinch people live in the mountain north of Mount Crumpet. No one is really sure how that rumor got started, but the mayor one time suggested it to the Grinch to see if maybe he could find his roots. The mayor does not actually believe this rumor, but figures that if he can convince the Grinch to take a hot air balloon trip north, his chance of returning will be nearly impossible, as the wind very rarely blows southward. Even though the mayor seems to be tolerating the Grinch, the mayor probably would not be too upset if the Grinch was to be lost in travel. The Grinch starts to look into the possibilities of making the trip in search of his family. He decides to call Gus Who. The Grinch says, Gus, what do you think of the chances of making a hot air balloon trip northward, but more important, the trip back home? Gus says, as you know, the wind always blows to the north, never to the south, maybe once in 100 years. Why do you ask? The Grinch says, I want to find my roots, my family. I believe in the rumor of the mountains north of here, and possibly that's where my family is. It just seems to make sense. Gus says, I'm sorry, Mr. Grinch. Even if the rumor is true, the return trip just doesn't seem possible without some sort of extra assistance. Let's talk to Professor Who Knows to see what he thinks. If anybody can figure out a solution to your problem, it would be him. He was a professor of engineering at the University of Idaho for 30 years until he retired. He still likes to dabble with projects in his workshop. I will get back to you. The camera fades away, and then fades back in to Gus at his home. Gus calls his friend, Professor Who Knows. Professor, I need help with an idea. I need a way to help propel a hot air balloon faster and stronger than the propeller I have now. The professor, I can picture buck teeth, nerdy glasses, and a voice like Professor Frank from The Simpsons. Well, I've actually been working on a smaller version of the methane gas-powered turbine that is powering the village right now from recycled food leftovers. Gus, can you make one small enough and light enough to attach to the bottom of a hot air balloon? And the professor says, well, ironically, I already made a smaller version to experiment if the idea would work at all. I could reconfigure my calculations, reduce the chamber size without jeopardizing the compression detonation. I'll have to make some more changes to make it lighter and smaller, but, yes, I'm sure I can. Why don't you come over and I'll show you what I already have? Yes, I'll be right over. Gus arrives at the professor's workshop. The professor, the camera is showing everything as he is planning. This round container is where the fuel is stored. The fuel consists mostly of leftovers, such as any discarded fruit, vegetables, apple cores, banana peels, miscellaneous meats, etc. Then I reinstall lid, then push the igniter button. The igniter button is clearly marked igniter. The professor says, when you start the igniter, it moves the materials to the composting chamber. After some compression, then it moves to the methane chamber. The methane mixes with fresh air, which enters from the air intake, which is here. Once the methane and air are properly mixed, it goes to the combustion chamber, and the igniter sets off controlled explosions, which creates the jet propulsion, which, as you know, that will push the balloon. Gus says, whoa, you are so unbelievable. How in the world did you come up with this? This is going to be perfect. The next day, while Martha and the Grinch are having their morning coffee, the phone rings. Martha answers the phone and says, Good morning, how are you? She listens for a second and says to the Grinch, This is for you. He asks Martha, Who is it? Martha says, Gus who? And the Grinch says, Henry, George, Frank, Ralph. This is ridiculous. Who is it? Martha says, I didn't say guess who. I said, Gus who? He takes the phone from Martha and complains, What's the deal with all these who's names anyway? The Grinch says, Yeah, Gus, what's up? A balloon? The Grinch is giggling and laughing at his own joke and says, Oh, I am just a riot. Gus says, I talked to the professor and we have an idea for the balloon. Can I come over and we can talk? And the Grinch says, Come on over. I'm all ears. Grinch looks directly into the camera and says, Actually, that's not true. I have very small, adorable ears. You just can't see them because of my gorgeous flowing hair, as he flips both his hands through each side of his head. Don't like that. Gus arrives a few minutes later and rings the doorbell. Martha comes from the hallway and opens the front door. Look, like I said at the start of this, there are dire portents. Martha says, Oh, hello, Gus. Come on in. Grinch, while sitting at the kitchen table eating baked beans from the can, stops chewing for a second and yells, Who's at the door? Martha says, I know, I let him in. Grinch says, You let who in? Martha says, Yes. Grinch says, Yes, who? And Martha says, No, Gus who? Grinch says, please, really? And Martha says, Gus, the balloon guy. The Grinch says in a grumpy voice, then why didn't you tell me that in the first place? Martha shakes her head and points towards the hallway and tells Gus, he's in the kitchen. Just go through there and to your right. The Grinch gets up from the table to greet Gus, but he lets out a small fart. No. We're still being kind to Uncle Bob. The camera zooms in on Max, who was sitting there, and covers his nose with his paw. Yoo-hoo is also sitting there and has that disgusted look on his face. Grinch looks to the camera and says, oops, those beans get me every time. He meets Gus and asks him to sit at the table so they can talk. They both sit down at the table, and Grinch lets out another fart and points to the open can of beans and says, I'm so sorry. They give me so much gas. It's crazy. Gus says, I saw a new car in your driveway. Did you guys buy a new car? And Grinch says, with all the running we do around we do since we opened the park, we decided we need one. And Gus says, what model is it? And Grinch says, it's a Hoobaroo. Gus says, very nice. Well, anyway, I saw Professor Who Knows, and he has a solution to our problem. First, I will build another balloon just like the big one at the park. It will need to be like the big one to fit the supplies and equipment needed to power the balloon. Professor actually has been working on a project that is very similar to what we need. We just have to figure out how to adapt it to work on the balloon. On the bottom of the balloon, we have to mount two. The camera fades away. As Gus starts explaining all the details to Grinch, but not to bore the audience again with the details, the camera fades away. As the camera is completely faded, you hear another fart, and you hear the Grinch say, excuse me. At least nobody farted in a pony's life. There's so much other stuff that goes on in that. But I'm pretty sure nobody farts the entire time. Narrator chimes in, the Grinch is trained by the Professor and Gus, being that they both know different operations of the newly designed balloon. The Grinch has just been assuming that Gus would go with him, but Gus told him he was on his own because it was too dangerous to travel into the unknown like that. It was at that point that the Grinch realized just how dangerous it would be. Grinch is determined, though, and continues his training. The camera shows miscellaneous scenes of training with Gus and the Professor. Gus, while pointing to the instruments on the dashboard, says, this is your compass, you know. North, south, east, or west. Push this lever to go up, or push it to go down to go down. Grinch says, oh, this is simple. I'm ready to go. The Professor says, hold on there, big fella. Those are the only two simple controls on this balloon. The rest gets a little more complicated. Grinch rubs his hands together in excitement. Bring it on. Gus says, this is your altimeter. Grinch says, alter water? Gus says, altimeter. It gives you your altitude. The Grunch says in a grimpy voice, I don't think my attitude is anyone's business but my own. Gus slowly repeats, altitude, meaning how high you are. Grinch says, I knew that. I was just joking with you. Gus says, this gauge here is vertical speed. And the Grinch says with a confused look, vertical what? Gus says, speaking a little slower, vertical speed. It's whether you're going up or down and how fast you're doing it. You don't want to do either too quickly. Grinch, with a nervous laugh, says, especially the down part. And the Grinch, nervously looking left and right, says, boys, I think you forgot something. Where's the steering wheel? And Gus says, there is no steering wheel. Grinch says, "What? Are you people crazy?" The Grinch points to his left. "What if I want to go that way?" And he points to his right. "What if I want to go that way?" Gus says, "Okay, this is where the training gets difficult." Grinch pulls a notebook out and a pencil from behind his ear and starts frantically writing down some notes. Gus says, "Usually, direction is changed with a combination of wind direction and altitude change, but the professor's modifications will help you. That's going to take some more training." Grinch says, "How do you spell altitude?" Gus says, "You don't have to worry about spelling it. The professor and I have put together a manual with everything you need to know. There is even an index with everything listed alphabetically." Grinch says, "Alpha whaty?" Professor says, "Alphabetically, you know. A, B, C, D, E." And the Grinch says in a grumpy voice, "I know what it means. What do you think? I'm stupid?" Professor, "Of course not. It's just a lot for you to take in all at once. Let me explain a little about the steering, though, before we get into the turbo part. The turbos are going to use a lot of fuel, so you only use them when the wind is pushing you in the wrong direction." Grinch talks very loudly when he writes in his notes, "Wrong direction." He dots the notepad with his pencil and says, "Got it." The professor says, "So you fire up the turbos with this button here, and adjust your speed with this control here." And the camera fades away. The narrator turns in, "The Grinch has completed many, many hours of training. The camera can show him studying with a notebook, underlining items, circling items, adding notes, etc. The professor and Gus decides that Grinch is as ready as he will ever be. Now it's time for Grinch to practice lifting and landing. The professor stood aside while Grinch and Gus got on board for the balloon. Grinch practiced starting off and rising well above the village. There was a breeze blowing north, which, as you know, is common in Whoville. The Grinch practiced steering the balloon back south with a combination of the propellers and the professor's turbine system. The camera can show him practicing, moving levers, pushing buttons, turbines firing up, and then he could show Grinch landing balloon in the same spot he lifted from. The professor and Gus were extremely impressed with the Grinch's perfect landing. The Grinch, Gus, and the professor all agree he is ready for the trip. After thinking about the trip for a couple of days, Grinch decides that it is time to make the trip, but suggests that Martha should not go, because it's too dangerous. The camera shows Grinch and Gus starting the process of filling the balloon with hot air. The balloon is tied down, and the villagers are starting to crowd around to cheer him off on his dangerous trip. Camera pans over to Martha May, who has tears rolling from her eyes. They all seem to understand his need to find his roots, but are a little concerned as they all have grown to love him. The balloon is nearly ready for liftoff, as the heater has been filling the balloon for a while. The mayor is in front of the crowd, and he is so ecstatic and can hardly control his excitement. As you remember, the mayor was the one that helped sway the Grinch into thinking that he might find his family if he headed north. You do remember that, right? You didn't forget that, did you? I kinda did. Camera shows Grinch and Gus loading the balloon with food and supplies that are handed up to them by the professor. The stack of supplies is getting near the end when Grinch looks back out at the crowd. He does not see Martha. Grinch leans over the side of the balloon and looks left and right and does not see her. He walks to the other side of the balloon and looks. It still does not see her. Grinch, while clasping his hands around his mouth, yells out loudly, "Martha! Martha! Where are you?" The camera shows the crowd backing up, looking all around to find her. You can hear everyone asking, "Where's Martha?" And the Grinch says, "Does anyone know where she is?" He puts his hands to his sides. "I am not leaving until I get my kiss goodbye." You can hear all the women in the crowd, Carnella, who works her way to the front of the crowd. Carnella, if you don't remember, is one of the two caretakers that raised the Grinch. Oh, they do remember! And Carnella says, Martha ran back to the house. She said you forgot something, and she would be right back. Don't leave until she gets back. Grinch pulls out his notebook and fumbles through several pages. Check, I got that. He turns the page. Check, I got that. Turns the page. Check, check, check. Turns the page. Check, got 2. Got it. Check, check. Ooh, I got 6 of these. Pulls out his wallet and opens it up, and the camera zooms in on his balloon license. Got my license. I'm sure I have everything. Camera pans out to Martha, running towards the balloon while struggling with a big suitcase in one hand and a picnic basket in the other, and yells out, "You forgot me!" The camera shows the entire crowd going, "Huh?" Grinch says, "Martha May, what are you doing?" Martha says, "You forgot me!" And Grinch says, "We've talked this over and over. This trip is too dangerous." Martha says, "Let's me on board. I want to give you some more warm clothes and food in case you don't have enough. And more important, I want to give you a great big hug and kiss." The crowd again. Aww. Well, I assume that's what it's supposed to be. He didn't write it like "aww" with W's. He wrote it like "ah" with H's. But I don't think they're just supposed to be screaming in shock. I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix things. I should not besmirch Uncle Bob's vision. I need to stick to the script. Grinch opens the basket door, and Martha enters. He grabs the suitcase from her, and she carries in the picnic basket. Martha closes the basket door, and she tells the Grinch, "Take a look at those sandwiches I made for you. All your favorites." As the Grinch reaches in the picnic basket and focuses on the sandwiches, he is completely distracted as she picks up and throws overboard 3 sandbags. The balloon starts to lift, and 2 straps that are holding the balloon down pull out of the ground. The balloon starts to lift quicker. The crowd starts to gasp. Gus reaches for one of the straps, but he misses. The camera now zooms in on the mayor's face, because he is now realizing that his plan of ridding the Grinch forever is backfired and he may lose Martha May forever. The wind picks up as the mayor jumps forward and grabs the strap. He is lifted about 6 feet off the ground and can no longer hang on and falls to the ground. The crowd once again gasps in unison. Grinch says to Martha in his grumpy and now crazy voice, "What in the world is wrong with you? Are you crazy? You know I can turn this thing around and land it back down, don't you?" And Martha says, "Please don't. I love you and I want to be part of this. I have a good feeling about this. If you have family, I want to be part of it too. If we have children, I want them to be part of it too." Grinch closes his eyes and slowly shakes his head before he opens his eyes and says, "You're nuts, you know that?" Martha stares into his eyes and slowly nods her head up and down. And Grinch says, "Well, I guess that works out, because I'm nuts over you." As the balloon continues to rise, they embrace each other and then lean over to wave goodbye to the cheering crowds below. The balloon continues to rise. It is now they can look down at Mark Crumpet Park from an angle they have never seen before. Martha says, "Look at that beautiful park. Just think, that's all there because of you." Grinch says, "Yep, yep, yep. Although I couldn't have done it without you. We are an awesome team." The camera shows that the balloon has now risen above the pink peak of Mount Crumpet. The Grinch looks at the compass to confirm the northern breeze is sending them in the right direction. Grinch says, "I just got to warn you, this won't all be fun and games. I'm thinking the nights are going to get quite cold." Martha opens her suitcase and says, "I took that into consideration and packed some extra warm clothes." She picks up sweater and says, "See how this matches my eyeshadow?" Martha in a panic says, "Oh, crap-a-doodle. You must turn this thing around and go back. I forgot my eyeshadow. I can't see your family looking like this." Grinch, 2 things. 1, we are not turning this thing around. And 2, you don't need makeup to look beautiful. Martha says, yeah, but... Grinch says, no buts allowed on this balloon. And Grinch looks up into the camera and cups one hand around his mouth as if to whisper, especially big ones. We have to keep the weight down on this thing. Martha says, okay, but tell me the part about looking beautiful again. They both giggle and sit next to each other. They slide together and cuddle. And Grinch says, I just thought of something. How did you pack all that stuff and make all those sandwiches? You were only gone for a little while. Martha says, well, it's a long story, but I guess we got a lot of time to kill. So I guess I can tell you from the start. A couple of days ago, Clarnella called me and she wanted to talk. I went over to her place, and she told me how it always broke her heart not being able to find out if you were delivered to Whoville by mistake. She told me about a nameplate that was in your Pumbercella basket that was ripped in two, and part of the paper was missing. She never told you or anyone else about it because she was sure she didn't want you to grow up feeling like some sort of mistake. When she found out you were going on this trip, she thought it might be some sort of clue that might be helpful in finding your homeland. I told her I would give it to you, and then explain everything. I packed some clothes and extra food in case I could convince you to let me go. I decided not to go because I actually was scared. This morning, I was just going to kiss you goodbye and give you this envelope with a note explaining the torn papers. When I saw Clarnella in the crowd, she looked at me and blew me a kiss. I don't know what happened to me at that moment, but I changed my mind and I decided I was going to go with you and nothing was going to stop me. So here I am. And the Grinch says, so what kind of sandwiches did you bring? Martha says, are you kidding me? That's all you can think of right now? Grinch, while grinning and shaking his head, exhales loudly. I had to lighten the moment because I think I might have started bawling. Hold on. I'm not drinking shots. I'm just sort of continually filling up a glass. So, if somebody actually wanted to draw fan art for Uncle Bob's Grinch 2 script, I think this is the moment. Grinch started bawling. Martha says, boy, that heart of yours keeps growing. You are so sweet. Grinch stands up and turns the propellers on for a moment to make a slight adjustment to correct their northern route, and then sits back down next to Martha. Grinch says, so what's this paper you're talking about? Martha says, I'll show you when the time is right, okay? Not now. What the fuck? Why'd you bring it up? God. No, we're being kind. They said the Grinch would never be ballin'. The camera pans back to Mount Crumpet. You can barely see it in the background. Grinch says, so who's watching Max and you who? Martha says, yep. What do you mean, yep? Who's watching the dogs? Martha says, yes, you are correct. I'm correct? I'm not even sure I know what I'm talking about. Martha laughs and says, Cindy Lou Who is watching the dogs. She's going to walk them and feed them every day. And Grinch says, can someone please explain to me why everyone's last name has Who in it? Martha says, because that's what you do when you're a Who from Whoville. Grinch, while shaking his head and moving his hands to gesture confusion, But why do you do who's do what who's do? Oh, never mind. Martha snuggles up closer, laughing, and Grinch joins in laughing too. The camera can show the Grinch adding some heat to balloon, and then pans down and show heavy, thick forest below them as far as the eye can see. The narrator, they ride into the first night. Everything went surprisingly well. Martha May got a good night's rest, and even Grinch got several moments of sleep, just checking all the gauges to make sure they were still heading north and maintaining the proper altitude. When the sun rose the next morning, they were a little disappointed they couldn't see any mountains in the horizon. But they figured they had enough fuel for up to 9 days of travel, including the trip back. The camera once again can show the Grinch adding heat to the balloon in the heavy, thick forest below. Martha says, You must be hungry. You haven't eaten since yesterday morning. The Grinch says, I had a quick bite to eat last night before I tried to rest. You were already asleep. But yes, I am starving. And Martha opens a door under one of the bench seats. What foods did you pack? Grinch says, I packed a dozen cans of baked beans and made a dozen nut butter and jelly sandwiches. Martha, moving around, says, I see 12 sandwiches and only 11 cans of baked beans. Grinch lets out a fart. Excuse me. Martha moves suddenly to the other side of her balloon and holds her hand over her nose. Are you kidding me? I guess I know why you were missing a can. I have nowhere to hide. Is this all you packed for food? The Grinch opened another door under a seat bench and picks up items and models them one at a time. I have 2 bunches of bananas, a dozen apples, a couple bunches of grapes. The Grinch, with his hands around his belly, says sarcastically, You know, I'm trying to maintain this magnificent display of fitness. Martha shakes her head and says, Okay, and let's get one thing perfectly straight here and now. Don't you dare open one can of those beans while I'm stuck in this bucket with you. Grinch points and says, What's in your picnic basket thingy over there? Martha says, I made all our favorites. For breakfast, I made some who bacon and egg sandwiches. For lunch and dinner, we have who ham and cheese, and your favorite, roast beef with cheese, and a big bowl of tuna fish salad. Grinch says, Awesome, thank you. I'll have a who bacon and egg, please. The camera can show Grinch and Martha enjoying their breakfast and some fruit. Banana peels are dropped into the small trap door above the compost chamber. The narrator, Another long day of travel above the dense forest below. Still no mountain ranges in sight. They both have sandwiches and some fruit around lunchtime, and also again from dinner. Grinch and Martha are starting to get concerned, but don't want to show fear to the other. Daytime turns into nighttime, and once again they snuggle next to each other and cover up with a blanket to stay warm. Martha says, What a beautiful, clear night. The stars are so bright tonight. Oh, look! Martha points. You can see the Who Dipper. Grinch says, A who water? Martha says, The Who Dipper. If you were to draw an imaginary line from one star to the others, it will look like a dipper, like a scoop. Grinch says, Okay, if you say so. I think you've been smelling too much propane. Martha says, I'll tell you what I've been smelling too much of. Camera can show them both laughing, then show a shooting star go across the sky. Grinch and Martha both point and say, "Did you see that?" Grinch says, "What was that?" Martha says, "That was a shooting star. Did you ever see one before?" Grinch says, "No, but I remember Clarnella and Rose told me about them, and they said something about a wish." Listen, I can accept that the fluttering around of the dust speck from Horton Hears a Who results in weather patterns that would be recognizable on a normal planet. They have Christmas. Like, if they have Christmas, they have winter. They have mountains and stuff. I'm sure they have day and night and every whatever else. That's not that important. I think that's a nitpick. I think we can just trust Uncle Bob on this one. Martha says, "Yes, if you see a shooting star, you can make a wish. First, you have to close your eyes." Grinch says, "Then what?" Martha says, "Are your eyes closed?" Grinch says, "No." And Martha says, "Then close them, ding dong." Grinch says, "Okay." Martha says, "Now repeat after me." Grinch says, "After me, after me, after me, after me." Martha, while laughing, slaps his arm. "Come on, seriously, say what I say." Grinch says, "Okay, I'll be a good boy." Martha says, "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight." "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might. I wish I may, I wish I might. Have this wish, I wish tonight. Have this wish, I wish tonight. So make your wish, don't let me hear it, and don't tell anyone what your wish was, and the rumor is it will come true." See, but he doesn't do that. He should repeat that too. The Grinch should repeat that too. That should be the joke. If you want to have a joke. That's how a joke works. That's how the joke works. The camera pans back, and you see both of them with their eyes still closed, and you see them both smile, lean back and snuggle closer, and drift off to sleep. Day 3 of trip. The camera shows a beautiful sunrise as Martha and Grinch awaken. Martha says, "Grinch, look how beautiful that is." Grinch is looking. You're right. I shouldn't question Uncle Bob. I should believe in his vision, even if he does seem to have unwelcome proclivities. We're here for Uncle Bob. We're here for his vision. Grinch is looking at the sunrise, and he takes a double take when he looks towards the north. He picks up a telescope and can see a very distant mountain range. "Martha, it looks like some sort of mountain ahead. There's no peak. It has a flat top." Martha jumps up and down. "Let me see, let me see." Grinch says, "Easy, girl, you're going to break the basket." Grinch hands Martha the telescope. She looks and starts jumping again. You know what? I actually do have some questions about Uncle Bob's passions at this point. I have to be honest. Otherwise, I wouldn't be being true to myself, and that wouldn't be respecting Uncle Bob. I do have some questions about Uncle Bob's passions. "Easy, girl, calm down. So, as we get closer, we have to start looking for a place to land. Things may get a little tricky. At some point, we have to start our descent, okay? Got it?" Martha says, "Decent, got it. Land? Oh no, I got to put my makeup on and brush my hair. Make sure I'm ready before we land." Martha reaches into her suitcase and... Wait, what? Oh no, this page jumped around. Martha reaches into her suitcase and pulls out a blouse and a pair of slacks and holds them up in front of herself and asks the Grinch, "Do you think these go together?" And the Grinch, while he is fumbling through the manual, "Really now? Martha, this might not even be the place we're looking for." Grinch, while turning the pages, landing. Here it is. Camera shows Grinch speed reading, running his fingers back and forth, turning the page and continuing. Taps his finger on the bottom of the second page and says, "Got it. We are good to go, sister." Martha says, "Same here. This blouse is going to be matched these slacks better than the first ones I showed you. I just wish I had my eyeshadow. I can't believe I forgot it." The camera can show as narrator explains as the balloon slowly gets closer to the mountain. They can see what looks like a large crater surrounded by mountains. Everything is green. The mountains are covered in moss. The crater is a flat meadow which is covered with beautiful green grass, which will be perfect for landing the balloon. The Grinch lowers the burner heat to the balloon, which will begin the slow descent. As the balloon is getting closer to the landing area, they can see that the mountains are filled with hundreds and hundreds of caves. Which we have, for the first time in a while, another illustration. More of Uncle Bob's transcendent art. Thank you, Uncle Bob. As the balloon is landing, they notice something peering out of all of the caves. When the balloon actually touches down, Grinch turns off the burner completely. They can see these images coming out of all of the caves and start walking towards the balloon. The Grinch and Martha are getting very nervous as to how they will be treated by these people. As they are getting closer, they can see that these people all look like the Grinch, green in color and hairy, just like him. "Martha, this must be my homeland. Look, they all look like me. Aren't they all beautiful?" Martha says, excuse me? And Grinch says, "Well, of course, they're not as beautiful as you, sweetheart." The camera shows the Grinch-looking people all start to slowly gather around the balloon. They are understandably nervous and confused as to what's before their eyes. The balloon starts deflating and starts falling on the northern side, as that is the direction of the breeze. The people have to scurry out of the way of the falling balloon, creating a few moments of panic. The crowd of people starts to build around them, but standing back away from the balloon. They are all whispering, pointing, and chatting to each other. The Grinch positions himself in the basket to face the crowd. "We have traveled a long way, and I am searching for my family. I think when I was a baby, I was delivered to the wrong village. I'm hoping this is the village I was supposed to be delivered to. We have come from a mountain village, which is many miles south of here, called Whoville." The Grinch moves Martha to his side. "My name is Grinch, and this is my wife, Martha May." The crowd gasps, and they all start whispering and grumbling to each other. It's quite obvious they are not real friendly. I apologize. That was on me. I'm not here to ruin Uncle Bob's vision. A young-looking couple walks forward and introduces themselves as Frank and Susan Greenshire. Susan says, "We welcome you to Greenville. We will be happy to help you find your family, and if you like, you are welcome to stay with us during your visit." The Grinch opens up the door of the balloon in the basket, and Martha step down. The Grinch asks Frank to help him tie down the balloon, which he does. Susan says, "Please come and stay with us. You can get cleaned up, and I'm sure you must be hungry." Martha says, "We have been eating sandwiches for 2 days, and we never got a chance to eat today, because when we saw your village, we had to start preparing to land. A home-cooked meal sounds really, really good right about now. Grinch says, Frank, would you mind helping me with some suitcases and a picnic basket? Frank says, sure, hand them over. Grinch hands Frank the picnic basket, and Grinch takes the 2 suitcases, and the 4 of them start walking towards the Grincher's cave. The crowd is stepping aside, and continue to mutter and whisper to each other while staring at Martha. Susan says to Martha, Martha, don't worry about these people. Most of them are quite rude. It seems to be a custom around here. By the way, I love your blouse. It's got so many beautiful colors. Martha says, why thank you. I got it at Hoomingdale's. Susan says, what's Hoomingdale's? Martha says, it's a clothing store in our village. Susan says, we don't have any colors here. Mostly everything is green or brown. Kind of blah. The only beautiful thing around here is our sunsets and sunrises. And sometimes we get a rainbow. Martha says, Whoville is a beautiful place, and all of the colors of the rainbow and many, many more are everywhere. Our homes are colorful, flowers and fruits are colorful, everything. I miss it already. And Frank says to Grinch, so, Grinch, how did you guys meet? You two seem so different from each other. Oh no. Oh, that's not a good question to ask. Grinch says, that's a long, really long story. All I know is I'm glad it happened. The camera shows them walking up about 6 steps, and then a small platform leading to the front door of their cave. It's a large brown wooden door with a half-moon-shaped window. The door opening is carved into the mountainside. Frank opens the door and says, welcome to our home. We hope we can make you folks feel comfortable. The camera shows Frank holding the door open as Martha, Susan, the Grinch, and then Frank enter. The camera pans through a small but quaint front room with a kitchen-type area and a hallway leading to the rear of the cave. Susan says, welcome to our home. Whatever you need, let us know. There's a spare room on a far left and a shower directly across. Martha says, your home is so cute and cozy. I love it. Thank you so much for being so kind. See, and that's really what this story is all about. It's about kindness. And that's why we're being kind to each other, and that's why we're being kind to Uncle Bob. The Grinch says, you set a shower down the hall. Frank says, yes. The Grinch lifts his arm and smells his armpit and says, yeah, I think I could use one. Martha chuckles and says, yes, you certainly do, though I don't think I'm a whole lot better. The 4 of them chuckle. The camera fades, then shows Grinch and Martha entering the front room again, all cleaned up and in a change of clothes, joining at the Grinchers at the table. Susan says, oh, Martha, that blouse is even more beautiful than the other. Frank, look how beautiful that is. And Frank says, yeah, whatever. Frank looks at Grinch, and the 2 of them start laughing hysterically. The 2 of them turn and look at the ladies, and both ladies are giving them the evil eye. Both Frank and Grinch immediately start laughing. Okay, I'm sorry to say this, but given what we've seen so far, I think the reason we're not getting a shower scene is that cleanliness is diametrically opposed to what gets Uncle Bob's motor running in an erotic sense. I think that's safe to say at this point. But that's okay. That's okay. We accept Uncle Bob. We accept all of Uncle Bob. No matter what. Okay? We're okay with Uncle Bob. Martha says, "Thank you guys so much for having us and letting us stay here. I feel so much better now that I've showered and changed." Grinch says, "Thank you so much. I'm absolutely starving. Can't wait to have a home-cooked meal." I'm sorry, my throat is actually starting to kill me. I can't even try to do voices anymore, so I'm not going to. I really think it was the professor that just shredded my throat. That and the bourbon. So, between the two, I'm not doing voices. Susan takes out 4 glasses and pours them all a glass of green wine. As she is pouring, she says, "For dinner, we will be having a nice green salad and then some green beans with our green ham." Green ham. Not green ham. I'm sorry. It's not that much bourbon. I've been more irresponsible. Susan raises her wine glass. "Here's to our new friends," and wishing them the best of luck in their search for Grinch's family. Everyone stands and clinks their glasses and takes a sip. Takes a sip. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bob. I'm real sorry. Martha stands up again and raises her glass. "And to this wine, this is out of this world. Do you make your own wine?" Susan says, "Yes. Frank helps me. It's a lot of work. We got our recipe from our neighbor, Jean. She taught us every step." Martha raises her glass again and says, "Here's to Jean." They all click their glasses again while laughing and take a sip. The Grinch says, "Is everything green in Greenville?" And Susan says, "Yep, pretty much so." And Grinch says, "And I'm guessing that's why your village is named Greenville?" Susan and Frank in unison say, "Yep." Frank says, "It's something in the soil, I guess." And you hear the ding of the oven. Susan says, "The ham is ready. Frank, could you slice the ham?" The Grinch says, "May I? I'm very good at it." Frank says, "Go ahead, be my guest." "Oh, wait a minute, you already are," with a chuckle. Susan says, "Martha, would you mind helping me bring the salads and beans to the table?" Martha says, "My pleasure." Grinch finishes slicing the ham, and Frank brings that to the table as they all have a seat. Oh, that's... Grinch... I get it! Grinch is slicing the ham because of the end of the story where Grinch carves the roast beast. I get it. I see the lines. I see Bob's vision. I see it clearly. I perceive it. I feel like I understand Bob in ways I never wanted to before. Grinch stands and raises his glass. "To Susan and Frank, thank you for the meal, especially for this delicious green ham." Susan says, "Thank you, but you haven't even tried it yet." Grinch, laughing, says, "Ha ha, that's what you think." Everyone laughs out loud. The camera can show while the narrator explains. Everyone is passing the servings around the table. Constant chatter and laughter. Grinch and Martha can be heard several times commentating on how delicious everything is. They all seem to be very comfortable with each other. The delicious dinner comes to a close as Susan pours them all a second glass. That's a good idea, Susan. For breakfast tomorrow, you'll have some green tea and our finest green eggs and green bacon. The Grinch says, "It just dawned on me." He turns to the camera. "Green eggs and ham? Where have I heard that before?" Frank says, "So tomorrow, we will have to come up with some sort of plan to talk to all the villagers. We'll probably have to go door to door to talk to everyone. These people don't socialize very much. I think when they all gathered around your balloon this morning, it's the first time they started talking to each other as a group." And Martha, while yawning, says, "Very strange, don't you think?" Susan says, "I hate to see it, but yes, there's only a few that are friendly." Martha says, "You guys being two of them." And the Grinch chuckles and says, "That's up for debate." Martha says, "You're such a jerk." Everyone laughs. Martha yawns a second time. Susan says, "If you guys are tired and want to go to bed, go ahead. We completely understand. Frank and I can clear up the table, and we'll see you in the morning." Grinch and Martha look at each other and nod their heads. Martha says, "Yeah, if you don't mind. We are so exhausted." Frank says, "Absolutely, we understand. You guys are going to have a busy day tomorrow. We'll talk in the morning." Everyone gives everyone a hug and say goodnight to each other. I don't need to leave out this establishing shot. We know where we are. Day 4 of trip. Frank and Susan wake first and start setting the table for breakfast. Susan makes a pot of tea that starts cooking up some bacon. Martha and Grinch enter the kitchen a few minutes later. Susan says, "I hope we didn't wake you guys." Grinch says, "I was dreaming that a full plate of bacon was right in front of me, and every time I reached for it, the plate would move away. The second time, I reached so quickly that I accidentally punched Martha. She jumped up, and that made me jump." Martha says, "Idiot." Grinch says, "Hey, we're talking bacon here." Everyone laughs. Yeah, domestic violence is pretty funny. "Oh, yeah," Frank says. "Bacon will do that to you." Martha says, "Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Frank. I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow." And Grinch says, "Tomorrow, to be honest with you, I don't even remember getting into bed." Grinch and Martha sit down at the table, not the table, and Susan pours them a cup of tea. Grinch says, "Is the bacon green too?" Frank says, "Yep." Grinch, scratching his head as if he's confused, says, "So are the chickens green?" And Frank says, "No, they're brown." Grinch says, "But..." Martha puts her hand over Grinch's mouth to stop him from talking. "Grinch, can we please stop talking about the color of the food and just appreciate how lucky we are to be having it?" The Grinch says, "Well, yeah, but..." Once again, Martha puts her hand over his mouth and says, Martha says, "So what do you guys think? How do we go around and ask these people about searching for his family?" And Susan, while looking over at Frank briefly, says, "Frank and I talked last night after you guys went to bed. We came up with an idea. After we finish breakfast, we can talk about it, and you can tell us what you think." Grinch says, "I honestly don't know if I'm terrified or excited. My heart is pounding out of my chest." The camera shows an X-ray vision of his heart pounding. Martha says, "I don't blame you, honey. You have a lot on your plate." Grinch looks down at his empty plate and says, "I don't see anything on my plate. Is this a trick?" He's getting bamboozled. Everyone laughs, and Martha explains, "No, honey, that's an old expression, meaning you have a lot on your mind right now." Grinch says, "Oh, I thought I was going to miss out on those green eggs you talked about." Susan says, "Don't you worry, Grinchy. The green eggs and bacon coming up shortly. Do you mind if I call you Grinchy?" Grinch says, "You can call me anything you want. Just don't call me late for breakfast." Everyone chuckles. Sue and Frank place all the food on the table, and they all pass the servings around the table. Fast forward to Grinch and Martha saying they are stuffed and how everything was so good. Frank and Grinch can be seen rubbing their bellies, indicating they couldn't possibly finish another bite. Frank and Sue get up and clear the table. Sue tops off everyone's teacup. Frank and Sue sit down at the table and start to explain their discussion of last night. Frank, Susan and I were talking last night about an older couple in the village that we know. Gene and Eugene Greeninch. This is not a Redwall book, sir. How dare you? How dare you? They're not describing food nearly enough. They're only talking about what color it is. Nobody's making scones. There's not been a single mention of scones. How could this possibly be a Redwall book? Go fuck yourself. So, Gene and Eugene Greenwich. Gene is the one that Susan talked to you about last night. It taught us how to make the wine. Anyway, we had heard that they were expecting a baby many years ago. And when the baby was delivered, he didn't have any of our Greenville features. He wasn't green. He wasn't hairy. He never developed hairy fingers. They are a sweet old couple, the Greenwiches. They live just 7 caves south of us. Uh-oh. I'm having stuff freeze up. That's no good. I'm just going to assume things are still working. Yeah, they are one of the nicest couples in this village. Their boy is now a grown young man. His name is Hans. Hans is a home builder. He helps convert dungy caves into comfortable homes. His dad built many of these homes for about 40 years and taught Hans everything he knew before he just couldn't do it anymore. Hans lives 3 caves south of his parents. Susan says, he had a rough childhood because he was so different from us, but his parents did a great job raising him, and he is well liked in the village. Trust me, it is difficult to be liked by anyone here. They're all miserable. They were originally going to name their baby, if it was a boy, Ethan, but decided on Hans. You know, Martha, he has a lot of your features. Martha says, interesting, I'm just thinking. Martha looks towards Grinch. I'm not even sure if Grinch knows this. I have heard from a lot of the other Whos that a policeman in our village, Officer Houlihan, and his wife were expecting a baby around the same time that Grinch appeared in Whoville, but their baby never arrived. They evidently were heartbroken, but figured it just wasn't meant to be. Martha says, you know, it all connects. That my husband and the Houlihan's baby were accidentally switched. And Grinch showed up in a Pumbercella basket at the doorstep of 2 elderly sisters that ended up adopting him. The camera can show miscellaneous segments, while the narrator explains the scene of the 2 Pumbercellas bumping into each other and getting knocked off course. Grinch ended up at the steps of 2 sisters, Clarnella and Rose, who, the next morning, they discovered him off in the cold and brought the basket with the shivering baby inside. When they took him out of the basket to wrap him with warm blankets, a note had dropped to the floor. After they warmed him up, they fed him. He devoured everything they gave him, and even took a bite out of the Santa dish they had. Once they had a moment, they discovered the note on the floor. When they put the 2 pieces together, they could see some parts of it were missing. Poor little thing was probably starving and started eating the note. They realized it was probably supposed to be the name of the family that was to receive him. Obviously, they could see he was different from all of the other Whos, but felt sorry for him and didn't want him to be put in an orphanage. They adopted him and took care of him. They never gave him a first name, but everyone called him the Grinch because of the note in his basket. Plus, the nickname happened to fit his grouchy attitude. They tried teaching him right from wrong, but probably because he was always picked on by other kids, he grew up as an unhappy child. Carnella and Rose were devastated when he ran away. Actually, that's a really good fucking question. So, like, they're certainly implying that none of the Grinches are wearing clothes. Like, none of these other Greenville people are wearing clothes. So, like, would this Hans guy even understand what being naked was? Because the Grinch doesn't wear clothes. Well, no, because the Grinch doesn't wear clothes in Whoville. So I guess it's just like a racial dichotomy. Maybe Uncle Bob might be racist. Maybe we shouldn't be kind to Uncle Bob. No. 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 No, we're not. We're gonna believe in Uncle Bob. We're gonna believe in Uncle Bob. Susan says, "Wow, it has to be the Greenwiches. I mean, how could it not be? Grinch, whenever you are up to it, we can take a walk down there." Grinch says, "I guess I'm ready, as I will ever be." Frank says, "You sure?" And the Grinch says, "Yep." They all get out of their chairs and head for the front door, and suddenly Grinch says, "I'm not ready yet." Martha says, "You still a little nervous?" And the Grinch, squinting his face and holding his butt with his two hands, says, "I have to go potty. I haven't gone in 4 days." Grinch runs down the hall holding his butt while everyone is laughing hysterically. Martha, while still laughing, says, "I hope you have a vent in there." Susan says, "Oh yeah, I had Hans put one in after Stinky Boy over there tried to kill me, I think." Frank, while laughing, says, "Oh, come on. It's not that bad. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, commenters. X cards are no good for you here. There's no safety to be found for you there." And Susan says, while shaking her head, "Maybe for you." After several minutes, Martha goes down the hall to the bathroom door, and she knocks on the door and says, "Are you okay in there?" And the Grinch says, "I'm just about done." "Nope, not done." Martha comes back out to the front room and says, "I'm sorry, he'll be another couple of minutes." A few more minutes pass, and the Grinch comes up the hall. "You might want to wait a minute or two before you go back there." Everyone scurries to the front door to try to be the first one out. Susan reaches the door first. Martha pulls her back and jumps in front of her. Frank pulls Martha back and jumps in front of her. Frank opens the door and they all run outside. And Grinch comes out last. At this point, everyone is completely hysterical as they all go outside and pretend to gasp for air. Susan says, "I don't remember the last time I laughed that hard." Frank says, "Me either." The camera shows while the narrator explains, still continuing to laugh as they walk down the path. As they are getting closer, the laughter settles down as they become a little nervous of what's ahead. They reach the Greenwich's front door. Susan knocks on the front door. Frank and Martha behind her, and Grinch is hiding in the back. He is really nervous, and understandably so. The front door opens, and it's Mrs. Greenwich, Jean. Jean says, "Oh, good morning, Susan. What brings you here?" Susan says, "Hi, Jean. Frank and I brought folks that we think you'll be very interested in meeting." Jean says, "Please come in and make yourself comfortable." Jean turns and yells quite loudly down the hallway to her husband, Eugene. "Eugene, the Grinchers are here with some people they wanted us to meet." Eugene walks up, and Susan starts introducing everybody. Susan says, "This is Grinch and his wife, Martha May." She then turns and introduces, "This is Jean and Eugene." Everyone shakes hands and are then asked to have a seat by Jean. And Jean says, "Oh, so you are the people that arrived yesterday on that big balloon thing. Can I interest anyone in a cup of tea?" Susan says, "Jean, we are all set, but thank you for asking. Jean, please have a seat yourself, because this may be difficult to take in all at once." Everyone sits down, including Jean. Susan says, "Jean, as you heard of yesterday, they have traveled a long way to get here to try to trace Grinch's family. We think we have found his family." Jean says, "Oh my goodness, that's good news." She turns toward Eugene and says, "Isn't that good news?" Eugene says, "Thanks for asking. I did have a good snooze." And Jean says, "Good news." Eugene says, "No, how would I have any good news? I just woke up." Jean says, "Never mind." She turns back towards the group and says, "Eugene doesn't hear so well. So, do you know if they are from Greenville?" Martha May says, "We are quite sure they are from Greenville." And Jean says, "Do you think they live close by?" And Martha May says, "Closer than you think." Grinch says, "Jean, do you remember the day your son Hans arrived in the Pumbercella? I think your son was supposed to be delivered to our village of Whoville, and I was supposed to be delivered to you. I think, I'm your son." Jean says, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" And Grinch says a little louder, "I think I'm your son." And Jean says, "What did he say? He stinks like a skunk." And Susan says loudly, "He thinks he's our son." The camera pans the entire room. Absolute silence. Jean is still with her mouth open. Eugene looks totally confused, but is afraid to say anything because he is assuming he didn't hear correctly again. It is too embarrassed to ask again what they said. Susan says, "Jean, can I get you a glass of water or something?" And Jean says, "Yes, sweetheart, that would be great." Susan gets both Jean and Eugene a glass of water. Grinch gestures to get him one too, which he does. They all take a couple of large gulps. Jean says, "Okay, you've got to understand what you're saying is life-changing, especially for our son Hans." Grinch says, "For me as well, but only for the better." I don't understand this idea. Like nobody actually gives birth in this setting. They're delivered in baskets. All real parents are fake. All real parents in this setting are fake. Nobody is actually like a birth parent. It's just whoever received a basket. I don't understand why this is important. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't understand. Why does he need to find his real fake parents? What does it matter coming up to telling someone, "I think I'm your real fake son"? Fuck you. you, Grinch. Hans showed up in the basket. Hans is as real a son to these people as any son in this setting is to anyone. You can eat shit. Grinch gets up and grabs a Photoshop. Not a Photoshop. Who cares about the address? Who cares if he's delivered to the right or wrong address? Fuck it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's even worse if he's just a piece of mail. Like, he had parents. He had parents who loved him. These people aren't his fucking parents. They're nobody to him. They might as well be the neighbors. Like, this is the most asinine thing. Do you think do you think Uncle Bob also feels this way with, like, if, like, he sees a white family with, like, a dark-skinned child? I'm sorry. I'm losing the faith. I'm sorry, Uncle Bob, but I'm losing the faith. No. No, we can't go down that road. That's not a good road. You have to admit, I look a lot like you folks, and your son. God damn it, Bob! You're not making this easy. I look a lot like you folks, and your son looks a lot like Martha May, and Martha May looks similar to all the other citizens of Whoville. Well, except Martha is more beautiful than most of the women in Whoville. Martha says, most. Grinch says, did I say most? I meant all. Please, Martha, one problem at a time. Grinch walks over to Jean and hands her the picture. Jean looks at the picture and then looks up at Martha. She does this a couple of times and continues to stare at the picture. I'm sorry, this is difficult for me. I believed in Uncle Bob, and my world is falling apart. I'm having a difficult time. And then she just continues to stare at the picture while Grinch starts to explain. On the night that Hans arrived on your front steps, there was a strange wind. It changed direction, probably just long enough to create a problem. The wind, for a short time, blew south rather than north like it usually does. And Martha May chimes in. Grinch's Pumbercella and another baby in a Pumbercella headed for a Whoville family both got knocked off course and arrived to the wrong homes. Martha May reaches into her bag and pulls out 2 pieces of paper. The old, battered, half-chewed name tag with the expected family name on it. Carnella, who gave it to Martha May just before she went on the trip. Martha May walked over to Jean's chair and handed her 2 pieces of paper. Oh no, I didn't get these pictures ready. I didn't see these when I was scrolling through making sure I had all the images ready. Fuck. I assume this is like an actual screenshot from the movie because it doesn't actually look like anything else. But like I said, I haven't seen it. Whoa, that's the pieces of paper in the envelope that Martha had. And yeah, of course I know how to use the snipping tool. I use it all the time. Jean, this name tag was in the basket that Grinch was delivered in. We figured he started chewing on it as he was probably very hungry. I'm sure it used to spell Greenfinch. Greenfinch? Greenfinch? But they're not named Greenfinch. They're named Grinch. They're named Grinch, not Greenfinch. Oh my god, he forgot. It's okay. It's okay. He made an editing mistake. Uncle Bob made an editing mistake. We can accept this. It's a draft. It's a draft. It's fine. The doorstop he landed at were 2 elderly sisters that adopted him and did their best to raise him. Jean's hands were trembling as she put the 2 pieces together, and tears started streaming from her eyes. She put the papers down on the end table and got out of her chair and slowly walked down the hall. There was a total silence from everyone, including Jean. Yes, it is actually written Greeninch, but I am assuming it is pronounced Greenwich, just like it is pronounced Greenwich. I am just making that assumption. I am probably stupid for doing that. It probably is supposed to be Greeninch, but that's what I've been doing. It is written Greeninch, but we can move beyond this. We can move beyond this. But Jean has just gotten up and slowly walked down the hall. There's total silence from everyone, including Jean. This is Gene, Jean, so I assume it is supposed to be Eugene. The camera pans over to Grinch and Martha, who are confused as to why she left the room without any explanation. A few moments pass. Oh no, there's another picture. There's another picture that I missed. Jean returns to the front room and hands Martha a piece of paper, evidently with the name of the expected family of Hands. Jean says, "We were quite shocked and didn't know what to do. Nobody by this name lives in this village. We were going to name our little boy Ethan, but decided to give him the name Hands." Martha looks down and reads the name and immediately starts crying. She hands the paper to Grinch, and he immediately starts crying. So the tension for the big reveal. There's so much tension, I can tell. Everyone's waiting with bated breath to see. The hula hands. Grinch gets up and walks over to Jean and says, Mom, I'm Ethan. Boy, did I miss you. I knew something was missing in my life. You had parents who loved you, Grinch. You piece of shit. I hate the Grinch now. I hate him so much. What an asshole. What an unbelievable asshole the Grinch is. No, I hate the fucking Grinch. I'm not going to dead name the Grinch. Okay? I'm not gonna dead name the Grinch. He's still written as the Grinch in the script. His name is still Grinch, okay? His name is still Grinch. His name is still Grinch. Jean got up and said, Son, I'm so sorry this happened to you. This time, we're not going to be separated ever again. They give each other a long, long hug, tears coming from their eyes. Cameras pans to everybody. Everyone is crying except for Eugene. Eugene is totally confused as to what's going on. Alright. Let's get it together. This is a serious and emotional scene. They did. Yes. Okay, I know there's art of them. And I know who they are now in the art, because I saved out a bunch of the art, so I would have that ready. But we're not there yet. Grinch / Ethan. Oh no, are they gonna do this? Are they gonna do this Jordan Peterson shit where they just use both of the names? Pick a dead name. Either just pick a name. Just pick a name and stick with it, please. Oh no. Oh no, don't ask me that question. Don't ask me if we're in the home stretch. Oh no. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to do this to you. Don't ask me that question. That's a bad question to ask. The Grinch / Ethan turns to look at Eugene and says loudly, Well, Dad, you want to go out and see a ball game? Eugene gets up and says, what? See a small flame? Grinch slash Ethan, ball game. Oh, never mind, Pops. Let me give you a big hug. Grinch gets up and gives his dad a big hug. Of course it's only Act 2! Of course this is only Act 2! Oh my god, there hasn't been a single conflict yet in this entire fucking script! This might need to be a two-parter, guys! This might need to be a two-parter, guys! This might need to be Grinch Part 1 and Ethan Part 2. Grinch gives up and gives his dad a dick. No! No! Gives his dad a big hug. Gene looks at his wife and says, could someone please tell me what in the world is going on here? Jean moves over to her husband and cups her hand around his ear and takes a couple of moments to explain what just happened. Eugene falls back into his chair and everyone is giving him the time he needs to let everything soak in. The room is in total silence as everyone is not quite sure what to do next. Eugene slowly gets out of his chair and approaches Grinch, who is a nervous wreck and doesn't know what to expect. Eugene says, welcome home, son. Ethan starts doing his happy dance around. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, Ethan. I thought Ethan was your dead name and I was going to call you the Grinch. I didn't realize I was dead naming you. I'm so sorry, Ethan. It's okay. It's okay. We can get through this together. Together we can get through this. We didn't know. We didn't know. Everyone is clapping and cheering and hugging. And then all of a sudden, Gene stops and says, oh my, we have to tell Hans the news. Just tell him that he's not a real son? What the fuck? Don't do that. This is horrible. What? Yeah, it is horrible. That is horrible. You awful, awful people. No, it's exciting. I don't know what it is. And Martha says, Gene, that will be difficult. But you and Eugene will always... Oh, thank God, Martha. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Martha. Thank you so much, Martha, for finally saying something that makes goddamn sense. Gene, that will be difficult, but you and Eugene will always be his mom and dad, and he will always love you. He is a successful grown man now, and it's all because of you two. That's right, Martha! That's right, Martha, but why can't that be the case for Ethan and the spinsters that raised him? Yes, he probably will want to meet his real parents someday, but that's something he has to figure out. That's fine. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for making Martha a reasonable person. See, I knew we could believe in the humanity of Bob and in his heart and his spirit as a loving man who would understand the care that family would have for a child that they raised. Thank you, Bob. I love you, Bob. Susan says, I think we should all just head out and give the Grinches time alone to take it all in. And give Hans the news. Susan, Frank, and Martha give the Grinches a hug. Susan turns to Jean and says, whatever we can do, let us know. We're just a couple of doors in. Okay, people are too reasonable for conflict, which is a little bit of a problem. But I am glad that Martha is at least reasonable about the whole state of these families. If family... If children are literally just delivered in baskets, okay, if they just fall out of the sky in baskets, then whoever raises them is their family. That's all there is to it. Martha is right about that. And I am glad. I am glad that Martha is able to understand this basic ass concept about the world that they all live in, unlike apparently everyone else in the universe. Okay. We're recentered. We are dedicated. We are at least going to get to day 5. If we get to day 5, then maybe the next one can be how Ethan stole Christmas. But we have to get at least to day 5. I'm sure there will be a day 5. Whatever we can do, just let us know. We are a couple of doors down. He's back to Grinch? Okay, honestly, that probably would have been the funniest thing to just end it on as a video. But no, we're gonna keep going. Grinch gives them another long hug, and they all start to walk out. Grinch turns and says, "Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad." And Grinch turns into the camera and says, "Vuja day. I know I never did that before." The camera shows as the narrator explains, Jean and Eugene are hugging and both are sobbing. The emotions are so mixed, it's a very difficult moment for them. Eugene has to sit back down. They both keep repeating, "I can't believe this. I can't believe this." You know what? Finally, I feel like me and the characters in this universe, we're on the same level. I'm there with you, buddies. Gene, Eugene, you're my people. We share the same spirit in this moment. Eugene says, "I'm so nervous. How are we going to tell Hans?" Eugene says, "I have a good feeling about this. Trust me, dear, it's all going to work out for the better. How can it not? Hans knows we love him. He will always be our son. He is not going to lose his parents. He is going to gain a pair. And in a strange way, he now has that brother he always wanted." And then Eugene says again with a nervous chuckle, "Yeah, he has a twin brother." Jean, as she is still looking out the window, says, "You know what? You are absolutely right. It's all going to work out." The camera shows as the narrator explains, Jean is pacing from the back of the room to the front of the room, peeks out the window, and repeats this pattern several times. Hans would always stop in and say hi every day after work. Occasionally, Jean would ask them to join them for dinner. Today would surely be one of those days. Ironically, the same thing is happening over at the Grinchers' home. Susan and Frank keep taking turns looking out the front window, hoping to catch a peek of Hans coming home. Oh no. There we go. "So what do we do when Hans does come home?" Martha says, and Susan says, "Well, I'm sure Jean will probably ask him to stay for dinner, which he does occasionally, and she will give him the news. I think we need to give him the rest of the night to let it all soak in. I feel so bad for them. This is really be a difficult time for them. It's a difficult time for me, Bob. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe tomorrow we can walk down and see how everyone is doing." The camera shows Grinch dancing and singing from one side of the house to the other. "I have a mommy, I have a daddy, I have a mother, I have a father, I have a mama, I have a papa, I'm so excited I can't sit still." Everyone is giggling, but certainly can understand his excitement. Okay, Martha says. Grinch. Oh, wait. I mean Ethan. Calm down. Grinch starts dancing again. My name is Ethan. My name is Ethan. Martha says, Hey, Ethan, you know what? I can say it now. My wish the other night came true. I wished that we would find your family. And the Grinch says, Can I say mine? Wait, if he's going to keep going on about why his name is Ethan, and everyone's going to start calling him Ethan, is he still going to be in the script as Grinch? Because that's going to get really, really irritating. Only if it came true, is what Martha says. Grinch says, I wish for the same thing. I guess that shooting star thing really works. Susan says, This whole story is unbelievable. I am so happy for you two, but truly it's just beginning. Frank says, So guys, what do you want to do today? Martha says, Can you show us around town? And Susan says, Why do they all have such normal names? I am sorry. I've been just trying not to talk about it. I've been trying not to talk about it. But it bothers me that, like, it says Martha in the script is her name, but her name is Martha May Who. Like, I'm assuming most of the time in the movie they say the whole thing, because that's how they did it in the old cartoon. And, like, everyone else has a name like Hubris or Houlihan or, like, Augustus. But all the Grinches just have, like, normal people names. And that has been... It's been bothering me so much. It's so weird. It's weird. It's weird that their names are Frank and Susan. It's weird that their names are Gene and Eugene. It's weird that they called Grinch Ethan. Okay? It's weird. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I feel like Bob probably wanted a son named Ethan. If I'm being honest, I feel like Bob wanted a son named Ethan. This is really uncomfortable, honestly. I feel like we're getting way too much insight into Bob. I kind of just wanted to appreciate Bob from afar. I don't want to know this much about Bob and his disappointments with his offspring. Jesus Christ. Susan says, there really is nothing to show. You've already seen just about everything. A ring of mountains all around us, with a big meadow in the middle. Down in the meadow, there is a large community garden and some farmland where we raise the chickens and some pigs. If you want to take a walk, we can... The Greenville sounds nice! Greenville sounds nice. Where is the conflict in this story supposed to come from? Everyone just immediately accepts any kind of life-changing information that shouldn't be life-changing because nobody should give a shit in the setting. And, like, everywhere is just nice. Like, oh, your neighbors are kind of grumpy and secluded. So Grinch asks, are the pigs green? And Frank says, yep. And Grinch says, but the chickens are brown. And Frank says, you can't have green chickens. That would be foul. Susan says, that joke is foul. Grinch says, speaking of bad jokes, what do you give a pig for a boo-boo? And Frank thinks for a second and says, I don't know. What do you give a pig for a boo-boo? The Grinch says, ointment! And Susan says, while chuckling, boo! That was horrible. Grinch says, please, let's take a walk down. I'm way too nervous to just sit around all day. Oh no, am I getting bombarded? No! 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 Oh no! It might have. If we have to do a part 2, we might have a background image. Oh my god. Oh no, I lost the PDF version. Okay. Plus, I just want to go down and check out the balloon. Make sure nobody has messed with it. Frank says, I have to say, that's one thing in this village. It's cranky. Dopper, thank you so much. Frank says, I have to say, that's one thing with this village. As cranky as these people are, nobody would touch anything on your balloon. Everyone totally respects other people's property. It's always been that way. Ooh, camera / narrator direction. Okay. Back on task. Sorry, I still see it. They walk down to the meadow area, and Frank and Sue show them the massive gardens. The fruit trees, the chicken farms, and the pig farms. Grinch and learned all about the barter system and how it works. There's no type of money in Greenville. Is this Uncle Bob's Communist Manifesto? You know what? You know what? Fuck it. Maybe Uncle Bob's okay. You know what? You know what? He's into brap hogs. Okay, he's a little racist, but maybe Uncle Bob is okay. I don't know. I can't see the chat. I can't see the YouTube chat without also seeing the Grinch image, but I don't want to take it down. I'm sorry, the Ethan image. Hey, he walked down to the police site and just as Frank mentioned, everything was exactly as they left it. Frank checked all the straps to make sure everything was still secure. Grinch, dear, see if the cooler still has ice in it. If it does, grab the tuna fish salad. We can have it tonight with dinner. Grinch says, there's a couple of sandwiches in here. What about those? Martha says, if they're not on ice, then toss them in the compost chamber. Grinch says to Frank, speaking of compost, do you think we can get some... Oh no, is there an Ethan Grinch rabbit? You can't tell me that right now! You can't tell me that right now! No, I have to push that aside. We're focused. We are locked in. We have to get to day 5. It is 1 in the goddamn morning. We have to get to day 5. Speaking of compost, do you think you could get some spoiled fruit and vegetables from the farming people for my compost chamber? Frank says, that shouldn't be a problem. We'll go down tomorrow the first thing with some buckets. Grinch grabs the tuna fish salad, and they all start walking back to the Grinchers. Susan says, what's who fish? Martha says, not who fish. It's called tuna fish. Tuna fish salad. It's an old recipe I got from my mom. Did you forget about the compost chamber? For their turbo engine? For their balloon? Did you forget about the compost chamber? I didn't. I know it's there. I know where it's going. I'm sure I know where this is going. But we're not going to address that. We're going to give Uncle Bob a chance. We're going to give Uncle Bob a chance. The person who posted this said that Uncle Bob worked on this for 8 months. We're going to hope with all of our heart and soul that Uncle Bob, during the script revision process, did not pay off that foreshadowing. That is not going to happen. Not who fish. It's called tuna fish. Tuna fish salad. It's an old recipe I got from my mom. Martha turns to find out why Frank and Sue are laughing, and she sees the Grinch holding his nose closed. Martha says, "What? You said you like it." Grinch says, "It's not a matter of taste." Looking upward, as if thinking, "Oh yeah, it gives me bad gas." Damn it! No, it's those stupid baked beans that give you gas. Everyone laughs out loud once again as they are getting close to the Grinch's home. I never watched Jackass, so I don't know what that is. And we're going to keep it that way because I'm not going to click on any fucking thing you link me. We have so much fun with you guys, Susan says. We certainly understand if you don't stay, but we sure will be sad to see you go. The camera narrator says they enter the Grinch's home and all sit down to relax from their long walk. Susan puts the tuna fish in the chillerator. She then goes back to the front door to take a quick peek to see if she can see Hans coming home from work. Listen! Yes! Everyone laughs at fart jokes. Farts are funny. That's fine. I agree that farts are funny. Everybody knows that farts are funny, and some people just want to pretend to be above it. Obviously, that's true. I don't think farts are funny to Uncle Bob. I think farts stir a different feeling in Uncle Bob. If I'm being honest. But we are staying positive and we are staying kind and we are not judging Uncle Bob. No. These aren't the Grinchers. Have always been the Grinchers. The Greenwiches and the Grinchers are different people. The Grinchers are Frank and Susan. The Greenwiches are Gene and Eugene and Hans and now apparently Ethan. So the tuna fish is in the chillerator. She then goes back to the front door to take a quick peek. Anybody ready for some wine? Susan says, "Don't you think it's a little early?" Martha says, "Nope." Grinch says, "Nope." Frank says, "Nope." I say, "Nope," but I don't have any wine, so bourbon will have to do. Susan says, "Okay, I'm in." They all laugh as Frank pours 4 glasses of wine. They all sit down at the table and take a sip. Grinch stands while holding his glass of wine. "Something just occurred to me, Martha. Please bring your wine and stand next to me." Martha does like he asks. Oh boy, this should be good. Everyone chuckles lightly. Grinch, would everyone raise your... Oh no. Okay, editing was... You know what, Uncle Bob? I got your back. I'll fix your editing mistake here. You got a problem here on page 47 out of 91. A Grinch says, "Would everyone raise your glass?" And then you go back to the direction, which they all do. And then Grinch says with a voice like an announcer, "May I introduce you, the first time in public, Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Grinch." Everyone cheers and takes a sip. Martha says, "Oh, I never thought about that." Frank grabs a spoon and starts tapping his wine glass. And Sue follows. Grinch and Martha give each other a big, long kiss. After the kiss, the Grinch wipes a tear from his eye and says, "I'm leaking again." That's not... Is that from the first movie? That sounds like it comes out of goddamn nowhere. That's a weird thing to say. Martha says, "Give me another kiss, Mr. Grinch, you big green teddy bear." Grinch does so and puts his glass down and starts dancing around. "I'm Mr. Grinch, I'm Mr. Grinch." And Martha follows, "I'm Mrs. Grinch, I'm Mrs. Grinch." No, they're not. They're not talking about Ethan anymore. He's still Grinch he's back to Grinch in the script. Okay, thank you, Jules. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here to carry me through this deep, dark river, so that I don't dash my foot against a hidden stone and sink into the depths. Wait, whoa! Oh shit! I nailed it! Guys, I nailed it! Look, give me a kiss, Mr. Grinch, you big green teddy bear. Grinch does so and puts his glass down and starts dancing around. Okay, they did the dancing around thing. The two sit down and Grinch says, "How come it's pronounced Greenwich and not Greenwich?" Yes! 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 Oh, I got it! If there is a green in the name, yours is pronounced Greenshire. Yes! Woo! See? In this way only. This is the only way that me and Uncle Bob were on the same wavelength. In only this. In only this. Not in any other respect. But we still love Uncle Bob. We still love Uncle Bob. Susan and Frank look at each other and shrug their shoulders, and Sue says, "Because it is, that's why." Everyone chuckles again, and Grinch starts tapping on his own wine glass. Martha says, "You can't do that. That's against the rules." Ah! My background just keeps changing and I don't like it. Frank starts tapping his glass, and Martha and Grinch give each other one more kiss. Susan goes over to the door and peeks out the window. "I think he is down there checking out your balloon. Here he comes. He's headed up." Martha says, let me see. Susan says, "He's straight ahead, coming our way." Martha looks out the window. "He's very muscular. ... Oh my god, I cannot believe I just did a fucking cartoon hiccup. I might have had too much to drink. Oh my god. That's never happened to me before. Oh my god. Oh my god. He's very muscular. ... And cute. Martha ducks away from the window to not get caught. Is this gonna be the conflict in this movie? Is this gonna be the conflict in this script? That Martha wants to fuck Grinch's fake twin, fake brother? Is this the conflict? Okay, no, we're gonna believe in Bob. Bob wouldn't do that. Bob, I touched enlightenment earlier, briefly. I hit that spark with the Grinch and green shirt. I touched it. I touched the essence of Bob. I touched the essence of Bob. I touched it. I reached out and I touched the truth of the universe. And I know, I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Bob will not cuck the Grinch. Bob will not cuck the Grinch. I know. I know it. I know it in my soul. I know it. I feel it. I feel it in my heart. I know Bob won't do that to me. I know he might do it to you. Because fuck you guys. But me and Bob, we've been through a lot together at this point. I know Bob won't do that to me. I know Bob won't do violence on me in that fashion. I know. The Grinch clears his throat loudly. Martha says, "Definitely not as muscular as you, dear," while grinning towards Susan. "Oh no, she's lying! She's full of shit! No, Hans is jacked! Oh no! Bob! Can't betray me like this!" Bob, no. You know, there's 3 words that describe you, Bob, if you keep going down this fucking road. Bob, please. Bob. I'm reaching across time and space to speak to you as not as a kindred spirit, Bob, but as a fellow person with hopes and dreams. Please don't. Don't cuck the Grinch. Please don't cuck the Grinch. Bob! Please! Don't cuck the Grinch! The Grinch clears his throat again. Martha says, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. He's not as handsome as you either." Everyone chuckles. It's not funny, guys. That's a little mean. The Grinch is insecure. Susan looks out the window, positioning herself so she can see him reaching his parents' door, then entering after a short moment. Well, his world is about to change in a hurry. The camera can show, as the narrator explains, the... Stop! They not like us, okay? Bob not like us. To be fair, I don't think Bob is a pedophile. I'm not trying to imply that. I don't think it at all. It's definitely not true. I'm very sure. The room becomes totally silent as the four of them are sitting back trying to visualize what's happening at the Grinch home. Grinch gets up again and starts pacing very nervously. Grinch is deep into thought as to what will happen with his parents. Does he ask them to come back to Hoover with them? Grinch, you piece of shit! You had parents in Whoville! Why are you so easily accepting that these people are your parents? You have nothing to do with these people! Grinch is deep in thought as to what will happen with his parents. Does he come back to Whoville with them? Would Hans stay in Greenville or come back with them and meet his own birth parent? It's the Houlihan. Houlihans! His birth parents! His birth parents! Nobody has birth parents! Nobody has birth parents! Oh no! No! No, I don't like that! Nobody has birth parents! Nobody is bored! Everybody just falls out of a fucking basket! There's no such thing as birth parents! Susan is wondering what will happen to the Grinches if Hans goes to Whoville and leaves them behind. Even Martha is a little concerned. Would Grinch stay behind? How would she get home? Or would she stay with him? Everyone is a nervous wreck trying to figure out what's going to happen next. It's approaching dinner time, and everyone is not even sure if they are hungry. Susan says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not even hungry. Wait, no! Don't say that. No, Bob. Hey, Bob. If you're watching this video, first off, I'm sorry. Second off, I love you. I want you to understand. I get it. I understand what it's like to just completely not be understood. But even if you're weird, even if you're a freak, even if you need a brap hog, that's not the problem. The thing is, like, you need to understand this basic bit of script editing here, okay? You can't have well, you can, but you really don't want to have the narrator say, everyone is not sure if they are hungry, and then immediately cut to Susan say, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not even hungry. Susan's handling that. Cut that line from the editor. Just cut that line. Next draft, Bob, I know you're going to do another draft. I know you're doing another draft, Bob. Cut that line. Cut it from the narrator. He doesn't need to say that. Okay, Bob? Just me to you. Okay? Two people here in the shit together, in the trenches. You and me, I know we have that connection, Bob. I felt it. I felt that in that Grinch moment. I felt it between you and me. I felt it there. So, cut that line. Just cut that line. Please. Martha says, me neither. The Grinch says, any leftover ham? A ham sandwich might hit the spot for me. Frank says, why don't we just have some of March's Who Fish salad? And everyone yells out, Hoona fish! It's Hoona fish salad! And Frank says, sorry, Hoona fish and some snacks or something. Martha says, sounds like a good idea. And Grinch says, oh, great. Martha says, come on, give it another try. Grinch says, what I meant was, oh, what a great idea. Grinch gets up to take a peek out the front window, walks behind Frank, and slaps him in the back of the head. What the fuck, Grinch? You piece of shit. Why are you just being violent? Frank chuckling says, what did I do? I have never chuckled when somebody slapped me in the back of the head. I'd be decking the Grinch. I'll fight the Grinch. I'll fight the Grinch right the fuck now. Fuck the Grinch. And this whole, my parents aren't real. I need my fake parents. I need these other fake parents, not the ones who loved me and cared for me. Fuck you, Grinch. Fuck you, Ethan. Whichever it is now. I guess it's still Grinch. It says Grinch in the script. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Fuck the Grinch. Franklin Chucky says, what? Not Franklin! Not Franklin! Franklin has more self-respect than this. Frank! Chuckling says, what did I do? And the says, oh, I'm sorry. Did my hand accidentally hit your head? Martha and Susan are putting together some plates with sliced ham, some bread, some lettuce, and green tomatoes in the bowl of Martha's salad. I don't know why I'm reading all the lines like this right now. I'm just really... Where's day 5? Where's day 5? We're almost at page 60. We're like in the 50s. Day 4 is going on forever. I thought day 5 would be a breaking point at 1 o'clock. Martha and Susan are putting together some plates, sliced ham, some bread, some lettuce, and green tomatoes, and a bowl of Martha's salad. Martha says, do you think Hans will stop over tonight? Frank, while pulling a spoon out of the drawer, says, I doubt it. I'm sure he'll be there late, discussing all the options and what to do next. And Frank sneaks a spoonful of the Hoona fish salad and suddenly covers his mouth and runs down to the bathroom and slams the door. Susan takes a taste and spits it out of Frank's wine glass. Man, fuck Frank and Susan. Those pieces of shit. That's rude. What the fuck? Oh, I'm sorry, Martha. I wasn't expecting it to be so fishy. Susan says, it's called Hoona fish. It's called Hoona fish. It says fish in the name. If you don't like fish, don't eat the fucking Hoona fish. Susan, goddammit, I don't like fish, so I don't eat fucking fish. Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm losing the spirit of kindness. I think it's the fucking Yick picture. This has to go. I think this is making everything bad. I think that was a bad influence. Martha says, yeah, not everybody likes it. Frank comes back to the front room. Fuck no, Ethan. God damn it. chair broke. Oh no. Oh no, chair, please. Frank goes back to the front room and goes to rinse the taste down with his wine. You know what? Yeah, Frank's got the right fucking idea. He picks up the glass and Martha starts to say, Frank, don't. No, sorry, Martha. We established Frank has the right idea. Susan holds a finger to her mouth and gesture to Martha not to say anything. Susan, thank you. I know you're a piece of shit, Susan. I know I hate you. But in this moment, we are together. We are one, Susan, you and me. And Martha needs to shut her fucking mouth. And let Frank do what he needs to do to get through. Frank takes a big swig and hurriedly puts the glass down, covers his mouth, and runs back down the hallway again. Grinch and Susan are laughing hysterically. Martha says, you guys are mean. Poor Frank. Grinch also laughing says, yeah, poor Frank. He had to taste it twice. Jesus, Grinch. Fuck. Well, okay. We're being kind to each other, okay? So somebody just asked, what happened to being nice? We were being kind to each other. There's kindness. We are all comrades in arms. as we are in the trenches together, we are comrades. We might not be real brothers or sisters, but here together, going through this together, we are all brothers and sisters. We love each other. And we love Uncle Bob. But we don't have to love Frank and Susan. Fuck Frank and Susan. They're pieces of shit. I don't like Frank. I don't like Susan. I think they're dicks in a way that even the Grinch is not. I don't like them as people. I want them to have inconvenient things happen to them in their lives. I hope that their charges are declined and they have to spend 2 hours on the phone with the bank to get their shit sorted out. They deserve it. But not Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob, we're chill. We love Uncle Bob. We respect Uncle Bob. And we love and respect each other. We're friends. We're comrades. We are trauma survivors. We've been through this terrible experience. Stop sorry, it's not terrible. We've been through it's kind of terrible. We've been through this experience together. Like friends. Or like warriors who have fought on the field of reading this script. Frank comes back into this room. He says, what the? Grinch and Susan are laughing, and Sue says, Martha did it. Fuck you, Sue! Fuck Susan! I hope Susan dies. I hope she gets fucking cancer. Fuck Susan. I think we can all agree. Fuck Susan. Okay? I'm done with Susan's shit. Susan, we don't need therapy. Susan needs therapy. Frank giving Sue the eye and says, "Don't worry, Martha. I know who did it. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for saying what we're all thinking." Martha kiddingly says, No, Martha, you don't have to pretend. I get it, Martha. This is that thing where you're saying a thing like as a joke, but you mean it. So you could say like, no, I was joking, but like everyone else kind of knows. Yeah, I get it. I know what you mean. Martha kiddingly says, "I don't like any of you people anymore. Thank you, Martha." Again, Martha, the voice of reason. That tuna fish salad is good. And the Grinch says, "Yeah, good for the compost chamber." We have another camera/narrator instruction. They all decide to make some sandwiches with the leftover ham and continue chatting all evening, still wondering if Hans will knock on the door any minute. Susan pours another round of wine for everyone. They could go talk to Hans. They know where he is. Jesus, guys. If it's that important to you, just talk to him. He's right there. Martha says, "I feel so..." Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Bob, my man, Bob, my main man, Bob. You wrote this in the narrator voice. It's in the red text that you use for the narrator. So Martha technically says, "I feel so bad. We are drinking all of your wine and have nothing to give you in return." Editing, Bob. Come on, 8 months. You're far too deep into drafts. You're too deep into drafts for this kind of error. Just get this fixed. Susan says, "We have about 20 bottles in storage. You guys have already given us plenty. New friends and fun memories that will last forever." Martha says, "You are so sweet. We will surely miss you guys. But like we know." Martha, we get it. You're not going to miss Susan at all. I know for sure at this point that Martha is going back to Whoville. Whether Ethan goes back to Whoville or not, Martha's gone. She's out of this fucking place. She's never dealing with Susan for a day again in her life. Susan says, "I know what you know. I'm sorry, guys. I fucked that line all up." Susan says, "I just want you to know, whatever happens, we will do." Susan is interrupted by a knock on the front door. "Oh no, what do we do?" Frank says, we see who it is." Susan says, "You do it. I'm afraid." Frank gets up and turns to everyone. "Okay, guys, this is it." Everyone is panicking as Frank walks towards the door. He can't see anymore through the glass as he opens the door. He looks out and sees one of his neighbor's little boys. "Hey, Mr. Grinch, can I get a ride on your friend's balloon?" What? This is like you're finally trying to build into some conflict, Bob! This is your moment. You blew it. Don't put this here, Bob. Don't put this here, Bob. Move it. Ooh. Frank says, "What are you doing out so late?" "Tomorrow I will talk to your parents. If they say yes, I will talk to Mr. Grinch to see if we can make it happen, okay?" The little boy says, "Okay, but don't ask my mom. She won't let me do anything fun." Little boy, bro, I get you. I know it. Yeah. Yes. Okay, Bob, we're bros again. We're on board. This little boy, I know you've been here, Bob. I know I've been here, Bob. We get it. Aces. Oh, no, I can't get... Oh, no, it won't scroll. Okay, we're good. We're good. Everything's fixed. Everything's fixed. Everything's good. We're good. Frank says, okay, get back home. It's too dark for you to be out. Oh, I'm glad to know it's dark. Jesus Christ. Thank you for establishing a timetable at some point. Oh my God. If it's dark, we might be close to day 5, guys. We might almost be there. Frank returns to the table. They all shake their heads and exhale loudly. As if intended, they all take another gulp in unison. Bro, I'm there. Grinch says, darn, I was hoping this was Hans. This waiting around is driving me crazy. Susan says, I can't imagine what you were going through. If I have to ask, is staying here with your family a possibility? Grinch says, Martha and I talked about this earlier. There is no way we could stay away from Whoville. It is such a beautiful, friendly, and fun place to live. The new park we built, oh, they remember the park. Okay, thank you. Is a total success, and we still have a lot more to do. I sure hope my mom and dad and Hans want to go with us. If they don't, then maybe we can come back visit now that we know they are here. Maybe when we come back, we will have a balloon big enough to take you back too. That's okay, Grinch. You can leave Susan behind. Fuck Susan. You should take Susan in a balloon, push her out of the basket in the middle of the fucking woods. I'm sorry, I don't like Susan very much. I just don't like Susan very much. She's a jerk. She's mean. Pushing her out of a balloon in the middle of the woods. Pushing her out of a balloon in the middle of the woods is too mean. Like, for the sake of a movie with a fucking god-awful Jim Carrey Grinch that says stupid shit while he mugs for the camera, I think that's okay to just dump her in the woods and leave her there and forget she ever existed. Oh no, it's hard to read. It's hard to read, Jinx. I can collect myself. I can overcome this. Me and Bob. I can get this. I know we're close. I can see ahead at the bottom of the page. Me and Bob. I can do this for Bob. I can do this for Bob. No, stop scrolling around randomly because you're trying to load ads page, please. Martha, please, please, please. Even though you make fun of my Unifish salad, everyone laughs again. And Susan gives up and gives Martha a big hug and says, boy, am I going to miss you guys. I'm not going to miss you, Susan! And the Grinch says, so hopefully Hans will visit us tomorrow morning. I can't imagine him coming tonight. It's getting too late. It sure fucking is, guys. It's almost 2. I thought this would actually not take this long. I forgot. Oh no! I forgot how much faster it is to read things without actually saying them. I forgot how much faster it is to read things without saying them. Having to read things out loud makes things take like 8 times as long. This is farther than I read, but it took a lot less time. So, we've established that Susan makes fun of Martha's fish salad because Susan's a fucking bitch who should be ditched in the woods. Everyone laughs again, and Susan gives up and gives Martha a big hug and says, "Boy, am I going? Oh boy, am I gonna miss you guys, Susan's gonna be gone for the rest of it. Susan's gonna be gone. We don't have to have any more Susan. Susan's gonna miss us, but I am not gonna miss Susan. Fuck Susan." Grinch says, so hopefully Hans will visit. Wait, no! Oh no, I'm looping! I went back too far. Oh my god, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. So hopefully Hans will visit us tomorrow morning. This is the Grinch speaking. I'm sorry. This is Ethan. I'm sorry. This is the Grinch. Oh my god! I don't know. I don't want to dead name the Grinch, but I don't know which one's the dead name. So the Grinch is speaking. The Grinch. It says Grinch in the script. That's his name. Is Grinch. I'm saying Grinch. Grinch says, so hopefully Hans will visit us tomorrow morning. I can't imagine him coming tonight. It's getting late. Oh, hey, Bees. Thank you for being my friend and climbing up on me. Bees is my dog. And he is my friend. I love him. And he has been next to me, but now he's climbing up on me. So I think maybe things are bad. But we're so close. Grinch says, so hopefully Hans will visit us tomorrow morning. I can't imagine him coming tonight. It is getting late. I am planning on heading out early the day after tomorrow, with or without them, unfortunately. Back to camera narrator. So, day 4 of the trip winds down, and they all head off to sleep kissing each other goodnight. No one will probably get much sleep, being so many lives will be affected by the decisions made tomorrow. Camera fades to dark. Day 5 of trip! We made it, guys! And I want to be clear. I tried really hard. I locked in. That was not the bourbon at the end there. That was Bob. That was Bob. I did not do that. That was not my responsibility. Because even now, even a third of a bottle of Maker's... It's not the little bottle either, it's the fat one. Even now, I know this is bad. But it's not me. It's not... I didn't do this. I'm not responsible for this. I cannot be held responsible for this. For this specific thing. No, I can't find the file! Oh no! I can't be held responsible for that. But for the line there. For this line. This is Bob. This is not me. I was respecting Bob, who I love. I love Bob. I was respecting his vision. Where he says, being so many lives will be affected by... No one will probably get much sleep. Being so many lives will be affected by the decisions made tomorrow. Camera fades to dark. Day 5 of trip. That is Bob. You can't blame me for that. You can blame me for a lot. I am not blameless. But that's Bob. That's all Bob. That fucking line of text. It's all Bob. Bob, fix your shit. Bob, fix your shit. I love you, Bob. I love you guys. And I'm gonna leave you with the preview I saw when I was screening this to see if it was worth reading. I'm gonna leave you with a preview of what is to come. If I can get the fucking PDF to work. Oh no. Oh no, it's not working. Go! I need this. I need this preview of this one line of dialogue. This is the one I wanted to use as the preview. I haven't read this far, but I skimmed this far to see lines. Guys, I wanted to use this, but I can't find it. I had too many bourbon. Where is it? I know it's here. Fuck, I managed to scroll across this randomly while I was skimming this. There we go. Oh, there it is. Here we go, guys. Here's what Uncle Bob has in stores for us. Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready, guys. I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready. Oh, no. I will admit, I knew this line was in this thing going in. I don't know its context. But I need this line as part of this script. And I know this is something we can look forward to in How the Ethan Stole Christmas. Which I guess is what I'm calling the next one. Oh no, what did I save the file as? Oh no! Oh no, I Guys, I can do this. I believe. I believe in us. I believe in me. I believe in Bob. Guys, we've reached day 5 of the trip. We have a long way to go. It's almost 2 in the morning, and theoretically I have work tomorrow. Fortunately, we had an incredible snow and ice storm, so I'm probably going to be able to call in. But all things considered, oh no, this is where we're gonna start. This is where we're gonna stop for now. I know this is coming. I know this is coming. I'm sorry, I should have... I know very little about what is coming, but I know this much. I know we're gonna learn a lot more about Uncle Bob. I know we're gonna try our best. We're gonna try so hard to still love Uncle Bob by the time this is over. Okay? But we're gonna go through this together as friends. And we're gonna be friends together. And we're gonna be friends with Uncle Bob. And no matter what, that's the rule, okay? We still love Uncle Bob. No matter what. He's our family. He's our family. And that kind of connection, as we have learned from the Grinch and all of his nested fake families and all of his bullshit families that don't mean shit. Okay? What we're learning is that even if family is bullshit, even if family is nothing, even if family is as arbitrarily as wind blowing some fucking buff jacked dude into a village full of Grinches, we're here together, and it's us, and that's all we have left. Merry Christmas, everyone!